suppression of IL-10, which can actually become bad. But because the overall balance is present, because of that, it is fine. So can you please watch my video on ivermectin that I did before this lecture? James Bruno says, thoughts on this study theorizing a fat-dependent ketogenic state encouraging better immune response. Very good study. I love this one. The dark side of the spoon. The name is nice as well. So the basic idea they are saying is, if our body is in an inflammatory state, then anything that would cause more inflammation or anything that would have the inflammatory system attack it can make our body unhealthy. And for sure, carbohydrates are pro-inflammatory. They are pro-inflammatory because they bring in a lots of energy, and that energy needs to be processed. And when that glycolysis is done, when that process is done, a lots of reactive oxygen species are produced, which then cause damage to us. Now add COVID-19 on top of it, and then COVID-19 can tip that pro-inflammatory state and cause even more damage. So this is the case for all of us. We all take bread, or majority of us, or rice or other things. Then they are proposing that if you take ketogenic diet during this time, then you have less carbohydrates, less pro-inflammatory state, and you are in a better shape to handle the virus. And I agree with that. That is a correct approach. Heather says, I've looked online for that. So I think it's a two-part question. So Jaro Franta says, months ago, there used to be frequent discussion about prophylactics and what people choose to use. Maybe an update would be appropriate. I have been, so now you can see that how many topics are the ones that I plan, but then I keep having to talk about others. Prophylaxis is one more topic that I wanted to just sit down one day and only talk about prophylaxis. Excuse me. So good point, Jaro. For instance, are cool beans adopting carrageenan nasal spray as regular use, prophylactic, or just occasional use? So I would actually put that question to the cool beans. Tell me, do you use carrageenan? Do you use it regularly? Sometimes? Do you use any other nasal sprays? Do you use mouth washes? What kind of mouth washes? How frequently are you using? This is a curiosity for me as well. There is a cool bean. His name is Mike from San Jose, not in San Jose anymore. He's a retired surgeon. He had said to me was that, why not we start gathering this information and then gathering if people are becoming sick and see that with these supplements, what is the kind of benefit that we are offering? That is a good idea. So please tell me, give me a comment for how it's going. So Heather had responded to him. So I'm going to Janet Elton had this question, how common is ivermectin allergy? So Janet, I actually looked up everywhere for the incidence of ivermectin related allergy, and I didn't find the incidence numbers. So I cannot say how common. Secondly, as I just read the Goodman-Gilman, they say that most of the time the side effects are because the worm is present and that breaks down, and that can cause actually allergy-like behavior because the eosinophils in our body and mast cells, they would degranulate, they would attack the worm, and the broken worm would cause them, because there are more pieces to go around in the body now, that would trigger more cells, and then they would react, and that is a side effect. So I didn't see the actual incidence numbers. Karen Cross says, can red or infrared LED lights stimulate vitamin D? So Karen, your question that you are in an area where there is no sunlight or not much sunlight, I would suggest to use the UV lights. Is it possible to get the UV lamps? UV lamps are very common, or daylight lamps are very common, which have the ultraviolet rays that are useful for vitamin D production. So I have a link here that you can use. Again, the links that I put here, I have no association with them. I have no financial interest. I Google them, I read them, and the one that I feel has better content in there, I put them out here. Okay, so one more question here, and then I'm going to come onto the live side. Um, Janet Elderton, my question about allergies to ivermectin. I assume that this warning is supplied for all medication. I could not find anything about, and that is correct. The allergies to ivermectin in Goodman-Gilman, they do not talk about allergy. Goodman-Gilman talks about side effects. So if you see here, from here is well tolerated in uninfected humans. Filarial infection, if you see here, they are talking about um, side effect as itching and swollen tender lymph nodes. So maybe that is what they're calling allergies. Or then they're talking about, and they may be calling this allergies because the relief is by aspirin and antihistamine. And that means the itching is happening because of histamine release, which can be called as allergy. But that is not an allergy to ivermectin. That is an allergy to the broken worm. Okay, so I'm going to go through the live side. Zelona Papuga, do you believe our life will return to normal? For some reason, I fear that new pandemics will come soon after the current one is resolved. I, I think we'll be back to normal. I was talking with someone who wanted to create a package of supplements for COVID, where they were saying if I could recommend some dosage, they can get those manufactured, and we can offer them to Cool Beans, and the manufacturing time for all that can be 2 months. And I was saying that I think in 2-3 months with the vaccines, we would actually be forgetting COVID-19. And touch wood, I wish that to happen. And I was saying that Cool Beans would start forgetting me as well by that time, because we would not be talking about COVID-19. I'll go back to doing normal, regular medical lectures. And so not everyone will be interested. So things would calm down. So Xylona, as much as I would miss you all, and I would be sad to not have these interactions, I think that in next few months, the pandemic is start going to cool down. And I think the habits that we would have formed, and the learning about the supplements, and the scientific advancement that we would have had, any further changes or chances of pandemic, we would actually respond better. My friend, the two doctors I was talking about, when they called me this morning, they asked me this question as well. They said, so do you think that science has advanced? And I said, yes, we have advanced 10, 20 years in this 1 year. Yes, ignorance has advanced as well, but science has advanced a lot. So we would handle things better next time. We will quell them right in the beginning. I think we'll be better off. So don't be upset. Mark Vance says, so if I can get any doctor in Florida to prescribe ivermectin, why are we talking so much about it? So I know it may be a rhetorical question. Talking so much about it is important for our education, for our understanding that there are things out there that can be valuable and useful, and even for these doctors' education as well. So I think we should talk more about it. The dark it is, the more dark it is, the more light we should light up. So we should talk about it. I am just sorry that many doctors, and even here, every day, there are people calling me and saying, I talk with my doctor, they simply make fun of you, or the video, or the ivermectin, or they give negative comments. So they don't want to even think about it. So that is unfortunately a problem with the scientific community at this time. Okay, so on the live side, I think you guys are running out of the questions, which is good thing. I'm going to continue on here with the Twitter and quickly plow through them. So vaccines and those, value investor 411. Vaccines and those who have contracted, recovered from COVID, pre-screen? Will we have data affect priority? So as I said before, vaccine is not needed for those who have already the disease, but it really depends upon you, your doctor, your level of the antibodies, any health changes, health status change between when you had the disease and the vaccine time, any immunosuppression occurred, any drugs that are suppressing. So I think it is case to case, but generally, if you already have antibodies,
All right, hey folks, this is Chris Lucas. It's about 10:40 p.m. on November 27th, 2020. Um, well, I'm guessing I can't really tell how many viewers I have right now. Because this thing goes to multiple platforms and sometimes it doesn't even tell me exactly who all's on. Um, so, um, I'm hoping people are finding my channel. It's so normally can get about 10 people right off the bat. So it's kind of concerning to me that the live shows I'm doing are um, barely getting any views. There was something important I need to share, but I can't quite find it right now. Um, I can't recall it. I might have to go through my history and see what's up. I was maybe going to have a guest today, but um, can't seem. Well, I'm not really sure if they were meaning for me to go on their show or I was going to go on their show. So I never got back to them because I kind of got a little bit busy. Um, so I'm just trying to. I know there's like a couple of video clips I do want to share. In fact, I got notes. Um, I know one. One thing I'll share real quick is Oops, let me not put that on there. Oh, here we go. So I found this article, and this was only like a couple hours ago. This article was posted, and anyway, it says Pope Francis praised healthcare workers and criticized those who are protesting restrictions imposed by governments to stop the spread of COVID-19 in a New York Times op-ed. The piece is an adaptation from the Pontiff's new book, but the timing raised more than a few eyebrows considering it was published less than a day after the Supreme Court struck down restrictions on religious services that had been put into place due to the pandemic. In the piece, Francis recalls when he was seriously ill with pneumonia while he was a young man studying for priesthood. He says, I have some sense of how people with COVID-19 feels as they struggle to breathe on a ventilator, he said. As he has detailed before, Francis wrote about how he made it through the ranks, how he made it through thanks to nurses who understood his illness better than doctors and increased his dosage of antibiotics and painkillers. They taught me what is to use science, but to know when you go beyond it to meet particular needs, he wrote. And the serious illness I lived through taught me to depend on the goodness and wisdom of others. So you can kind of see where I think he actually had like a sly little, what do you call that? Um, he's alluding to something here, basically, I cannot, my vocabulary is not the most perfect right now. but he says, I lived through the serious illness I lived through taught me to depend on the goodness and wisdom of others, which I think he's saying we should think of like just trust the government and doctors more, and we need to learn how to do that, and that would be the wise thing to do. Anyway, which right now I would not trust the medical opinion of. I mean, you can listen to a doctor; they're definitely more informed, than many of us will ever be. But I'll always listen to your doctor with a grain of salt. Just because I almost had one that almost killed me. And I had others that, told me, oh, if you get certain illnesses, you're going to have to live with them forever and things like that. And so, and I know both of those things are false. And especially, like I told people before, I had like a skin issue. A doctor prescribes me this pill. And the skin issue goes away. Came back a year later. Go to the same doctor's office. Different doctor was in there. Had it been the same doctor, he would have gave me the same pill he gave me before, and I would not. I might have lost my liver. Well, this other doctor, he sees the pill box and he's like, "Whoa." I mean, he had this ghostly look on his face, and he's like, I can't give you this. You won't have a liver. And it kind of freaked me out because the way he said it scared me. Like, how much, like, because I'm like thinking, I should have asked him, man. I think I was scared to know how much damage it did. But anyway, he gives me some like topical skin cream and it goes away. And then like years later, I got this same condition again. And I was like, but I just, because of this lockdown and everything, I didn't have time to, it was so hard to get to a doctor. Most of them are like, well, you're not dying, so it's not a medical emergency, so you can't come in here. But basically, I take one day I take milk thistle because I had been drinking, a few beers here and there, and I was like, I want to make sure, my body's like, doing good, and try to clean it out. And what do you know, if my skin condition didn't go away like in 2 days from just taking milk thistle, just taking one pill of milk thistle a day. So I mean, it really taught me a lot. It's so I don't really think we should believe doctors blindly. From my experience, I know other people who've had similar experiences where their doctor almost killed them. And I mean, like, most doctors do more good than harm. So I can't say, and I can't blame a lot of these people. Like I know I told this story about this one doctor I know that would basically try to get people on ventilators kind of early in COVID. Or at least that's what it seemed to be saying to me. And he was basically like, well, I don't want this DAM and virus all over me, and I don't want it all over my staff. And he kind of explained it in a way where he felt like he was making a hard decision, but it was like the decision that was best for like the hospital. But at the same time, I mean, if you read articles and study articles, these people, like when they go on these ventilators, there was as high as an 85% chance that they weren't going to come off that ventilator and they were going to die. And here you had someone putting them on. And now, I mean, now do I think this guy should have his medical license taken away? I mean, well, if you keep doing that to all the doctors that react this way, I mean, sadly, you wouldn't have enough doctors to perform a lot of the functions that need to be performed. But the thing is, you got to be careful when you go to a doctor, and you just can't simply rid the industry of people like this. Because, I mean, to be honest, as horrible as I think that was, the guy probably does a lot more good than harm. I mean, like if you kept taking doctors like him out of the field, I mean, to be honest, there's like a lot of, you already hear about like sometimes hospitals being short staffed, right? So just imagine you take even more doctors out of the field. You're only going to get so much work done, and the good doctors won't be as good because they'll be too overworked. They're just one of those kind of like sad facts, but that's how it is. And then there's doctors, man, that just straight up don't want to take any. They're kind of scared to take risk. So if the FDA doesn't approve a treatment, they don't do it. You would have to pretty much like hound them for it. And I know some people, they're telling their doctors they want ivermectin, and their doctors still won't give it to them. So I mean, at least that's what I'm hearing. I don't know how that is in all the states, but I know in a few of them, or at least a few hospitals, that's the problem these people are having. So. But anyway, I'll just continue to read that article. Wow, I got really sidetracked. He went on to praise healthcare workers who are taking care of the sick during the pandemic, often at great personal cost, because they understand it's better to live a shorter life serving others than a longer one resisting that call. But see, here's the thing about that. Pope Francis gets mad at us about wanting to just ignore the lockdown and just basically be like Sweden, which is the model I was calling for before it became the Sweden model. Before anyone did it, I was saying that's how we should be. But what is this? It's like why do those people want to take the risk? Because they believe it would be better to risk living a shorter life than to just not to basically not live. And then all the risks that come from shutting down. Texas had like food lines, from what I understand, all the way to the highway. I heard in Ohio they had 2.5 hour food lines. I mean, this is all the stuff I'm hearing. I'm hearing that 50 million Americans are going hungry. Okay, we got a population of what, 320 million? And 50 million are going hungry. So, and that's supposedly the richest, best off country in the world, right? So we think it's okay to lock things down, spend $6 trillion on this virus, which is what Trump did. I keep having to remind people, Trump did this. I know you get mad and you're like, well, the Democrats keep wanting to push it. You know what? Things are twisted like that. But if President Trump wanted to end the national emergency, he can. And he never had to sign a $6.2 trillion bill for coronavirus. He never had to do it. Okay. And had he not done that, there would be less ability to lock things down. People only went with the lockdown because they knew that relief bill was right around the corner. You tell people that relief bill is not right around the corner, they don't go for the lockdown. And people try to say, well, everyone was going to lock it down. Remember, that's Republicans and Democrat governors. And it's really weird that all 50 states had almost like the same view of this. That, oh, yeah, we're all going to lock down. Like that always strikes me as odd. All 50 governors. Like not one thought, hey, I'm like looking at things and talking to my health department. And I don't think that's a good idea. It's just really odd, you had that one female governor in South Dakota. I can't think of her name. But she decided not to lock down. And South Dakota didn't do any worse than New York. In fact, they did a lot better. So what's going on in New York? And I know people say, well, they got a bigger population. Yes, they got a bigger population, but when you go by percentages, you're more likely to die of corona if you get corona in New York than if you get corona in South Dakota or anywhere else in the world. And I believe you are at least 3 times more likely, if I remember those numbers correctly. So you're 3 times more likely to die than just about anywhere else in the world. Kind of odd. It must be a new strain of it, or a lot of incompetence. So anyway, so it goes on to say, even as these saints next door receive praise from the population at large, there are others who have failed to take the threat of the virus seriously. Some governments have shrugged off the painful evidence of mounting deaths with inevitable grievous consequences. And other governments have acted decisively, have received pushback. Some groups protested, refusing to keep their distance, marching against travel restrictions as if measures that governments must impose for the good of their people constitute some kind of political assault on autonomy or personal freedom. It is. And it's like, okay, you want to go ahead and go along with these lockdowns, but the fact of the matter is, society and government will, cannot do a competent job. And you're also saying, okay, see the Pope and all these other people that want lockdown, they're also saying, okay, you people can be protected and stay at home. But you other people that work these jobs like at grocery stores and stuff where you're at very high risk of getting the virus, you go to work. Oh yeah, and guess what? If you're scared, too bad. Because you'll starve, because we're not going to give you unemployment. So you don't have no choice. So go to work. We're not going to give you any extra money for doing it. You're going to go to work, and while all of us, we get to stay at home safe. See, to me, how like good is that? The stuff doesn't. That's always bothered me from the beginning. And all these people that keep saying, "Well, I care." Well, if you care, why aren't you crying about that poor person working in a grocery store or a gas station that comes across the thousands and thousands of people, and you don't think they're at some kind of high risk, really? And just because even if everyone did wear masks, they'd still be at high risk. And they don't have a choice. Because you know what? If they file unemployment, they don't get it. Because you know why? They had a choice to work and they quit their job and aren't working. So you don't get unemployment. See, people act like, oh, all these people had the same choice and some just decided to work. No, some people were forced to work. Some people wanted to stay home. Some people, $1,000 a week to stay at home was a pretty nice vacation, which they've taken for, oh my gosh. I think I know someone that got it seemed like they got it for four months of this. 4 months of unemployment at almost $1,000 a week. Yeah, you can stay at home with $1,000 a week while this other guy working a fast food restaurant or working at a gas station or a grocery store, they gotta go to work and they gotta be at risk and they're only getting paid some of these gas clerks only get paid about $300 and something a week. Think about that. See, at least be fair. Why don't you, if you care about people and being fair, why don't you at least demand that everyone gets $1,000 a week? Everybody, even that person working at a grocery store, at least do that. If you're going to put a gun to their head and make them work. I don't. They should just had, when they first did this, if you really wanted to be fair, give everyone $1,000. Anyone who wanted to still work, they can go to work. Or if you just want to deem certain jobs, essential, but at least give them a choice. You still get your $1,000 even if you quit your essential job. So, hey, guy at the grocery store, oh, if you're scared of this virus, all right, you get to stay at home. We're not going to make you work. See, it's like the society wasn't even fair with this. It's not like people. It's not like you gave people choices. And that's kind of been the problem with this all along. And that's why, I mean, I'm pushing back, and I've been pushing back because I've been, this is crazy to me. Anyway, he goes on to say, let's see what else it said. I'm kind of reading this article for the first time. I just saw the headline about Pope blast those who criticize COVID restrictions in the name of personal freedom. And yeah, I mean, the freedom to go make a living and eat and feed your family. There are some people that are in a position where it's not like they're living like kings off of $1,000. In fact, $1,000 ain't even making their bills. They got like a sick mom, kid. They got special needs children. Parents are disabled. Your wife is disabled. Sometimes the wife is disabled. They got kids. They got to hire a babysitter. Can't even do that. You don't even have the money for that. And you really wrecked some of these people's lives, man. You really have, and you didn't give them much support. And now you're gonna like blast them and tell them they're horrible people. And but anyway, it says even though the coronavirus may seem special because it affects most of humankind, there are 1,000 other crises that are just as dire, but we can pretend they don't exist because they don't affect us directly. Among these unseen viruses are climate change, the refugee crisis, hunger, and wars. To come out of this crisis better, we have to recover the knowledge that as people we have a shared destination. Francis wrote, the pandemic has reminded us that no one is saved alone. The pandemic that you basically started with this coronavirus, and that your people started, to be honest. Who's the head of the CDC and the NIH? Fauci is the head of NIH, and Redfield's the head of the CDC. Both are Roman Catholics. Redfield, was charged with medical misconduct while he worked for the military. I think it was something concerning the AIDS. And Fauci, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm going to play a video. This is a pretty good video to play. I'll just, I could probably use that screen. Just play it off of here. No, you know what? I'm going to pop to a new screen. I want to save that article. So, let's see here. Should be pretty recent. By the way, Media Bear did a live stream. I thought that was really interesting. People should check out that video of his. He got cut off. I think he had one up on an internet error or something. I would really recommend that. This Revelation series by Beth Yeshua Messianic Synagogue of Fort Myers, Florida. This is a pretty good series too. It's about, I think, like 36 videos altogether. Oh, right, here we go.
Let's talk germ warfare, vaccine, and American population.
Let me find the part about Fauci. Oops. You know what? I might have forgot to click the audio button. Make sure I do that. Oh yeah, I remember what part it is. Yeah, I want you to hear this part. This is some really good research.
Okay, well, let's keep going. I did a whole video on this on my channel that's been pulled down, but National Institute of Health tested drug AIDS vaccines on foster children. Look right here. AIDS drug vaccine experiments on foster children. The grants were for testing experimental AIDS drugs and vaccines, even on infants. And it talks about that they had no advocate. It says that the National Institute of Health, Dr. Fauci's, had tested AIDS drugs on hundreds of foster children since the 1980s, even without providing the children with independent advocates to protect their rights and interests. When did Dr. Fauci join the National Institute of Health? In 1968, Dr. Fauci came to the National Institute of Health as a clinical associate. So in the 1980s, Dr. Fauci was at the National Institute of Health where they were giving AIDS medications to foster children without anybody protecting them. The same Dr. Fauci that works with Bill Gates, who is on the board at Bill Gates, who Bill Gates says that this is going to be the decade of vaccines, who Bill Gates says that we can reduce the world's populations through vaccines. Dr. Fauci is his voice piece every single day on the news about how healthy and good these vaccines are. When Dr. Fauci was involved with testing AIDS vaccines on foster children. Okay? Governor, govinfo.gov. Okay? Researching involved wards of the state. Okay? We're all just wards of the state. Okay? So remember all the other experiments that they've done. The Tuskegee experiment with Black people and syphilis. The unethical human experimentation in the United States. Numerous experiments performed on human test subjects in the U.S. have been considered unethical as they were performed illegally without the knowledge. Do you think this vaccine they're wanting to give to us right now might be being performed illegally and without our knowledge, without our consent or informed consent of the test subject? Dr. Fauci was involved. Such tests have occurred throughout American history, but particularly in the 20th century. The experiments include the exposure of humans to many chemical and biological weapons, including infection with deadly or debilitating diseases, human radiation experiments, injection of toxic and radioactive chemicals, surgical experiments, interrogation and torture experiments, tests involving mind-altering substance, and a wide variety of others. Many of these tests were performed on children, the sick, the mentally disabled individuals, often under the guise of medical treatment. In many of the studies, a large portion of the subjects were poor, minorities, or prisoners. And who are the first people that they're wanting to give it to right now? People in long-term care facilities. Okay. Now, Dr. Francis Bowl, who drafted the Biological Weapons Act, has said that the virus is a biological weapon. Okay, and he's the one that defined what biological weapons are. Dr. Francis Bowl, who drafted the Biological Weapons Act, has given a detailed statement admitting that the 2019 Wuhan coronavirus is an offensive biological weapon. I'm going to leave y'all links to all this, okay? There's more on Dr. Bowl. Okay, he's extremely smart. He's got a degree in political science. University of Chicago, a JD from Harvard. And he's telling us straight out, he's the one that defined it, and he's telling us it is a bioweapon. Now, I found this site by accident, sites.google.com, bioweapons, bioterrabible.com. If and when a full-scale bioterror attack occurs, the live pathogens and agents responsible for the pandemic will likely be dispersed via chemtrails, the Postal Service, and tied agent samples, tainted vaccines. Okay, and we're hearing all about the Postal Service and vaccines. A wealth of recent medical research indicates that vaccines are no longer safe and may cause serious neurological problems. Okay, now these are papers and meetings from different times. This is 2002, compensating a must for vaccine injuries, serious side effects from vaccine injuries. This is from 2002. Smallpox shots make them mandatory, from Time magazine. Selected vaccine authorities from CDC, FDA, and the manufacturers discuss in a closed meeting the possibility of neurodevelopment disorders resulting from vaccine components. 2003 abstract, the CDC published a study in the late 2003 repudiating any possible link between thimerosal and developmental problems such as autism, but the CDC did have data supporting such a link, which is secretively kept from the public. Tainted vaccines, y'all, can be used as a bioweapon. Okay, now look at this. The Tuskegee experiment, where Black people, some people said were infected with syphilis, some say were not treated for it. But this is from the Washington Post. Anti-vaccination leaders fuel the Black mistrust of coronavirus. The memory of the horrific Tuskegee syphilis study makes some African Americans suspicious of the coronavirus vaccine. Remember? Because they're saying they want to give it to the Blacks first.
Okay, so I thought that was kind of some very interesting and important points to be made. Once again, I want to kind of, apologize for the show, the way it started. And to be honest, it's also just a touch hard to get motivated because I don't even know who's going to wind up seeing my shows now because I seem to be getting banned so quick. And it's really over nothing. And, used to it. I've never really said anything bad about YouTube, to be honest. I've never thought bad things about them. I never was like, oh, YouTube's attacking me and I'm some super truther. Like, some of these guys, because, I look at their shows and stuff. And to be honest, it's like, I'm like, what truth? I mean, really? It's like you're kind of like basically just a touch better than Fox News, basically. Some of these guys. Now, this girl, this woman right here, I'll scroll down just so you can see the name of her channel. Hard News TV 5. Well, why is it 5? Because her channel's been knocked down at least 5 times. And she does really good work. Despite, her losing her channel 5 times, look at that. I mean, she's already got 146 views, 40 thumbs up, and 171 subscribers. You see these 171 subscribers? Look at that, man. You got 146 views, 171 subscribers. That's amazing, And the reason why I say that is, that shows you she's doing really good work, because that means no matter, like, these people, she found 140 people, 171 people that will still go and look and go search her out and go try to find her channel. And obviously, she also puts a little work into making sure people know about her channel. But like, even me, I try to keep up with her, and I didn't even know her 4th channel went down. And just recently, got a post from her and found out, oh, your fourth channel was down. No wonder I wasn't getting notifications, because I get busy, and sometimes I don't get to watch everyone's shows. And so, I didn't catch her show, and then I get overwhelmed with all this other stuff people want me to look at. So I kind of, forget to go check back and see what she's doing, and find out her channel's gone. So that's why I was never getting notifications, I guess. But my channel is, see, my whole thing about YouTube and it censoring, or censoring people, attacking people. I'm sort of like fine with it to a degree, because it does kind of keep some of the garbage out. Like, I got small children. I think it's awesome that there's a platform where like, on the kids YouTube, there's nothing bad comes across it for the most part, unless it's like those twisted cartoons, like that whole Elsa Gate stuff. But for the most part, even when I'm looking at YouTube, I don't come like, I'm always doing searches, not coming across, like things I don't want to see. I'll just say, like, any kind of like, I don't know, maybe you would call it like, yeah, I'm not going to get too descriptive. I just kind of want to ignore it. But, there's a lot of stuff that YouTube seems to filter out, that I'm kind of thankful for. And people are also hard on Google. But to be honest, if it wasn't for Google, I wouldn't have woke up about some of this stuff, because there was like no one around me that really talked about the Vatican or the Jesuits. And even with Google being around, it was kind of by accident. I even found out about it because if I didn't get in an argument with one of the top guys in the Constitution Party, I would never bother, researching Lincoln the way I did, because I was trying to convince him that, Lincoln was like a good president. And so I went back to the books of that day, because I'm like, well, if I just show him the books of those days and see where he's getting some of his ideals from, and see like the beginning of calling Lincoln a tyrant and why people would call him a tyrant and things like that. If I could just go back and research that and see what was the cause of that, and then present this to him and be like, look, man, this is where this started from. Maybe I could change his mind that way from a historical perspective, a historical, well-researched perspective. And so I present him these books, and as I'm looking for, I'm like, oh, wow, the Vatican was behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. I did not know that. And so I started looking at it more, and I started finding out all these, early Americans warning about a Vatican takeover. And when I see some of the things the Vatican was involved in, like removing the Bible from public schools, the Bible, our founding fathers said should be the primary reading book in schools. And here you have this, the Vatican helping to fund politicians to take the Bible out of the school. It's like, well, why would you want to take this out? I mean, people would say, well, I don't want my kid going to school and, got a Presbyterian teaching them something, or my kid's a Baptist, or my kid's a Baptist, got a Presbyterian or someone else teaching them the Bible in school. But the thing is, you can just straight up read the Bible. Like, you can just use it to read. You get to know God's word, and instead of reading some other silly book, you read this book. It's kind of hard to understand, so you develop more of an understanding about what each word means in the English language. Get a richer understanding of it that way. And you got just a more sophisticated education by the time you hit 6th grade. Whereas, I mean, now you got people believing in all kinds of weird things, and you kind of see how immoral schools are, and how, I mean, for me, when I was a kid, it was like being sent to prison for 8 hours a day. And I think it was a complete waste of my life, because I always knew what they were going to teach before they taught it. And like I'd go through my school books because I hated doing schoolwork. So the first 2 weeks of the year, I pretty much would have done all my schoolwork throughout the whole year, so I would not have to worry about doing it the rest of the year. And I just sat in class bored all the time. And what I would do is I would try to make toys out of paper, and try to play with, using tore up paper to make like little toys, which sometimes the teacher would take away from me. And I don't know, man. I mean, to me, it's real pathetic, man. Like that to me was like child abuse, to just treat a kid like that. And I swore like I'd never, let my children be treated like that. And I tried sending one of my sons to school. The other one wants to go to school, and I'm like, it's fine if you want to go, but the moment you feel like that school is something like what I experienced, I'm gonna pull you out. But I also went to a ghetto school too, so not only was it very boring, and I wasn't learning nothing, and you were wasting my life was also in danger. It was like going to a prison, man. Like you can imagine how boring juvenile is, and then it's dangerous on top of it. It was just, it's real ridiculous, So, so what else do I want to say? But anyway, I really like the points she made. There's one point I do want to go back to, though.
And it talks about that they had no advocate. It says that the National Institute of Health, Dr. Fauci's, had tested AIDS drugs on hundreds of foster children since the 1980s, even without providing the children with independent advocates to protect their rights and interests.
So, wow, so just testing drugs on children. I mean, do you really think that this government cares about you? I mean, it's the same people that are in charge right now that were in charge right then. Dr. Fauci. I mean, think about just how wicked that is. Think about, you're a foster child anyway, and about how bad of a situation that is. And then you're in foster care, and now you get to be experimented on top of it. On top of all that, man, like, to me, that's really heartbreaking. And it's like, I cannot believe that you people are sitting there watching, 50 million Americans go hungry. Watching Americans be in food lines, watching like the world starvation meter. Like the other day, when I first started showing it, just like a few weeks ago, it was like 7,800,000, I think, and now it's all the way up to 8,150,000, I think. I'll go glance at it. What is it today? Oh, it's almost 8,200,000 now. It's like 8,185,000. It probably turned to 8,186,000 by the end of this broadcast or night. And I don't know. It might be just short of it. But you got to think, man, if they would have used all this money they spent on coronavirus and they would have used it to feed people, you would save a ton of lives. And one more point, the point I really want to go back to in this video, because I kind of missed it. I watched this video one time, and then when I watched it again for the show, there's one other point she made.
When did Dr. Fauci join the National Institute of Health? In 1968, Dr. Fauci came to the National Institute of Health as a clinical associate. So in the 1980s, Dr. Fauci was at the National Institute of Health, where they were given AIDS medications to foster children without anybody protecting them. The same Dr. Fauci that works with Bill Gates, who is on the board at Bill Gates, who Bill Gates says that this is going to be the decade of vaccines, who Bill Gates says that we can reduce the world's populations through vaccines. Dr. Fauci is his voice piece every single day on the news about how healthy and good these vaccines are, when Dr. Fauci was involved with testing AIDS vaccines on foster children. Okay? Governor, govinfo.gov. Okay? Researching involved wards of the state. Okay? We're all just wards of the state. Okay? So remember all the other experiments that they've done. The Tuskegee experiment with Black people and syphilis. The unethical human experimentation in the United States. Numerous experiments performed on human test subjects in the U.S. have been considered unethical as they were performed illegally without the knowledge. Do you think this vaccine they're wanting to give to us right now might be being performed illegally and without our knowledge, without our consent or informed consent of the test subject? Dr. Fauci was involved.
See, that was the point. Do you think that this vaccine that they're experimenting with, are they performing it on us without our consent? Because it is an experiment. See, they've done this before. It might be unethical, but they've done it before. They've done it with children. They don't think they won't do it to you. I mean, think about what kind of person you must be to do this to children. So let's see here. What other points are there to make? That's actually like a really good video. I know what I want to do. I want to go and there's one other channel called Prophesy Again TV. This guy did a really good video yesterday, and so I'll bring that up on the screen. Let's see here. Trying to find it real quick. So I want to make sure I watched yesterday's show. Okay. All right, found it. So I'm gonna bring this one up on the screen. I also recommend watching this whole video. It's only 36 minutes long. Don't know exactly the spot I want to be in. He is a Seventh-day Adventist, and I'm not into the Seventh-day Adventist. I keep the Sabbath, but I really think to me I don't like Ellen White. I think it's almost like it smacks of Marianism, Roman Catholic Marianism.
And spirit from the civilians, from God's professed people. This must be their aim, and their oppression enforced with persecution. Come back and say more on that later on. Let me get to this critical point. Friends, I shared with you during yesterday's midday power surge that for a Sunday law to be enforced with persecution, fulfilling Bible prophecies, that the powers that be, the puppet masters, Popery and her allies, must stamp out the independent spirit from the civilians, from God's professed people. This must be their aim, and they're presently accomplishing this. Number two, for the mark of the beast to be enforced, they must make sure crises arise in the land that will make the citizens, residents, dependent upon government assistance. In other words, make them poor, make them paupers. All right. Remember, that's Matthew 24. The wars, the famines, pestilences, earthquakes, calamities, then comes the great crisis. And let me just say this now to launch into this midday power surge. Going deeper, this Thanksgiving Day has revealed, hear me carefully, the depth of poverty in America, the depth of pauperism in America. Take a look at this, my friends. Look at this. Remember, don't forget this.
We turn now to the growing struggle in America to feed our families. A survey by Feeding America found 40% of those who sought food donations during the pandemic never had to do so before. Here's
all right, clip number 2.
All right, y'all have a good Thanksgiving now.
Out of work and out of food.
I need turkey, I need meat.
These massive giveaways in Denver, Miami, and Dallas have become the new lines of the times.
New lines of the times? Clip number 3.
Beyond the holiday, Feeding America projects more than 50 million Americans will have faced hunger in 2020, up from around 35 million before the pandemic.
I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving.
The North Texas...
How many? 50 million? Take a look at this, my friends.
Food Bank's Erica Yeager says they're serving 10 million meals a month.
History tells us that we can expect to see this elevated need for at least the next 2 years.
Happy Thanksgiving.
It's going to get worse, my sister. Take a look at this. November 25th, for this reason, I reiterated those segments I just played. Headline says, The Guardian, no end in sight, it says. Hunger surges in America amid a spiraling pandemic. Number 2, November 26, 2020, Daily Mail. Headline says, tragic scenes in New York as socially distanced Thanksgiving dinner lines run for blocks, with 2 million expected to go hungry today amid unprecedented demand for food banks. And you could read those bullet points. And remember, Thanksgiving Day, people are looking for that meal. Americans looking for that meal. As I said before, I will reiterate, this day has shown the depth of the famine, the poverty, the pauperism, and things are not going to get better, my friends. Take a look. Listen.
Brandy Glasgow lost her home health care job during the pandemic and is scraping by as a seasonal worker for FedEx.
As a mother, you never want your kids to see you worry or panic. So it got a little hard and got a little questionable there.
Did you have money in your bank account?
No.
Last clip. Take a look.
In Texas, more than 2 million kids are expected to go hungry this year. A reality 17-year-old, Michael Glasgow, is now facing.
Right now, I'm trying to graduate and get a job. So that'll help, like, with the bills and stuff.
It's a wake-up call for a generation coming of age in the midst of a pandemic.
And friends, we're told that these calamities, these pestilences are going to become more frequent and more disastrous. Take a look at this headline here, friends. I had to show you this. November 26, 2020. Headline, a 2-mile line in Arizona. Let me turn the volume down. A 2-mile line in Arizona. A 4-hour wait in Ohio. For what? For food. Pauperism. Poverty. Millions seek help to avoid going hungry on Thanksgiving. All right, friends. Do you see Do you see what is transpiring all around us? These things show a Sunday law is near. Take a look at this. And what are we told in Ministry of Healing, page 183? They cannot solve the problem of poverty, pauperism, and increasing crime. Cannot. Struggling in vain to place business operations on a more secure basis. So where is the solution? It's right there. Country living, my friend. And I spoke about yesterday the 5 keys for survival. All right, my friends, I'm telling you, conversion, country living, it's there. Food on your property, ministry opportunities, industries. Number 5, helping others, sharing your food with others. Friends, I want to tell you something. The setting is here. Genesis 47 have to make the people government dependent. Go back and read verse 14 through verse 22. Go down to verse 27 of Genesis 47. All right, friends. Let me make sure God has your attention. Let's take a look at this ruling from the Supreme Court. Take a look at this headline, friends. It says, Supreme Court ruling, pandemic, no excuse to discriminate against religious groups. Let's read the bottom paragraph. It says, a gigantic victory for religious liberty late Wednesday night, that's last evening, at the U.S. Supreme Court. In a 5-4 ruling, the justices told New York Governor Andrew Cuomo he cannot discriminate against religious groups when it comes to COVID-19 restrictions. All right, friends, before I go any further, let me just say this. Most states in America that experience storms, hurricanes, in addition to countries, islands of the sea, Caribbean islands, I'm from Jamaica, I know what I'm talking about, who have experienced hurricanes. There is a proverb, a saying, an idiom that goes like this: after the calm, then comes the storm. After the calm, then a storm. Let's analyze what the Bible tells us in Matthew 24 and verse 44. The Bible says, in an hour that you think not, that's when the crisis hits. How many professed Christians began to say this was a victory for the church? This ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, was it a victory or was it not a victory? Let's analyze the arguments along with the ruling. Take a look at this, my friends. There it is. LifeSite News, November 26th, headline says, SCOTUS rules in favor of New York churches, blocks Governor Cuomo's restrictions. Friends, take a look at this right here. These are the arguments. In October, Governor Cuomo issued restrictions severely affecting places of worship, limiting the capacity to sometimes as little as 10 people, no matter the size of the building. And then Governor Cuomo also laid out fines, $15,000 fine if the churches violated those new rules. All right, friends, take a look at this. Then what happened on November 9th? What happened on November 9th? Take a look at this. The Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn, along with 2 Orthodox Jewish synagogues with their parent organization, filed an emergency application with the U.S. Supreme Court. It's right there on the screen. Let's take a look at what one of the arguments were. Take a look at this, my friends. It says, while they closed down the churches, restricted their attendance capacity, other businesses that were labeled essential and non-essential remain opened, with no capacity limitation. It's right there on the screen, my friends. Now, I want everyone to take a look right here at one of the statements from the 5 justices that ruled in favor of the churches. And let's see how this first argument relates to us. Take a look at this, my friends. Number 1, it says, these are the justices, the 5 that ruled for the churches. They said the regulations from the government, Cuomo, were not neutral. Were not neutral, meaning affecting all. No, they said the regulations singled out houses of worship and applied especially harsh treatment. Harsh treatment. Harsh treatment. Here's my question. I want everyone to think prayerfully on this point. If the regulations from Andrew Cuomo, the government, had applied to all agencies, all businesses, all institutions, what would have been the ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court justices? Would it have been the same, or would it have been different? Let me refresh your mind. They simply said, you did not apply the regulations neutrally across the board. So what would have been the ruling if it was done across the board? That's the question. So before we jump, hooray, victory, let us think prayerfully with scripture in mind. Take a look at this, my friends. These were written in the actual brief, the arguments, Governor Cuomo's laws. Look at this, my friends. They stated they were far more restrictive. Listen to this. New York's regulations were far more restrictive than any COVID-related regulations that have previously come before the court, much tighter than those adopted by many other jurisdictions hard hit by the pandemic. Question, was Governor Cuomo, trying to best other states with his COVID-19 regulations, restrictions? These are the justices saying this. Take a look at this. Last phrase, black words underlined. Far more severe were those restrictions that has been shown to be required to prevent the spread of the virus at the applicant's services. Far more restrictive on those churches. And yet, do you know what I had to look at on the backdrop of the arguments from the U.S. Supreme Court? These regulations being restrictive and targeting churches. Yet what did Andrew Cuomo say regarding the churches and the vaccine? Are these separate issues or are they connected? Again, are these two issues connected or are they separated? Let's test the SCOTUS ruling based on what you see on the screen. Governor Cuomo vows to mobilize army to vaccinate all New Yorkers fairly. Wait a minute. Operative word, fairly. Yet the regulations based on the ruling were not neutral, fair, biased, one-sided, lopsided. Listen again, friends. And who will Governor Cuomo use as a vax site? You mean the churches? The same ones based on the arguments he was biased against, trampling upon their freedoms based on the arguments? Is this not topsy-turvy? Take a look at this, friends.
Do it. We need to enlist community groups to distribute the vaccine in their community. We need faith-based groups that the community trusts to distribute the vaccine. We need medical teams and outreach teams going into public housing projects and low-income communities. New York State will mobilize an army to vaccinate all New Yorkers fairly, equitably. No state will do it better. Speaker.
That's humorous, to say the least. And of course, I'm being sarcastic. All right, friends, take a look at this right here. I want everyone to watch this. There it is in their documents. Places of worship to be used as vac sites. Take a look at that, friends. Now, understand this. Let us focus more deeply now. The justices ruling in favor of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Churches and the Jewish synagogues and other churches. Take a look at what they said. Red words on top. Even in a pandemic, the Constitution cannot be put away and forgotten, wrote the 5 justices. Even in a pandemic, the Constitution cannot be put away and forgotten. Do you know why I replayed Governor Cuomo's statement about using New York churches for vac sites? Do you realize that we have been told the government can force vaccinate its citizens, and the Constitution allows and permits that? Come back to what the 5 justices said. In a pandemic, the Constitution cannot be put away and forgotten. But what about my rights, my liberty of conscience, if I should refuse the vaccine? Can you see this, my friends? Let me refresh your mind. Take a look at that. There it is, my friends. The state has the right to plunge a needle into your arm. There it is. Look at the blue words. The argument against forcible vaccination is based on the 14th Amendment's provision and the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling, Jacobson versus the state of Massachusetts decision in 1905 confirms that. And there's the ruling, my friends. So how do we reconcile what they are telling us the Supreme Court said regarding inoculation, and the justices saying even in a pandemic the Constitution cannot be put away and forgotten? Are these things making sense? There it is, friends. You could pause the video and take a look at those articles. They can forcibly vaccinate the citizens. There it is. You have no constitutional right. It's right there on the screen, my friends. You don't have any. And they use the 10th Amendment against the 14th Amendment. Let me tell you something. A house divided cannot stand. A document interpreted to contradict itself cannot stand. Hope you got that. You could read that. Let me move on. There it is again. They can also come to your home and vaccinate you. There it is. Bring you to the doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. It's right there. Red words underlined. Move on, friends. There it is. And there are the documents. AMA Journal. It's right there from the government themselves. There it is, my friends. Let's get back to this. Look now at that second sentence. Even in a pandemic, the Constitution cannot be put away and forgotten. Red words. All right, friends, pay attention now. The restrictions at issue here, the 5 justices said, by effectively barring, stymieing, barring many from attending religious services, strike at the very heart of the First Amendment's guarantee of religious liberty. Did you catch that? The 5 justices said, in essence, what the government's regulations were doing We're barring people from attending religious services. It's right there. As a result, that is unconstitutional. And you should have heard the cheers. Yes, that's a victory for the churches. Yes, that's a victory for the churches. Wait a minute, friends. Wait a minute. Do you know very, very soon, when the mark of the beast is enforced, two things will happen along with persecuting God's dissenters. Two things. Number one, we are going to be cursed. We are going to be forced to attend church on Sunday in America. And the Supreme Court will interpret that in the law. And secondly, times, clip number 3.
Beyond the holiday, Feeding America projects more than 50 million Americans.
All right, so I just kind of want to play those few clips, those few points. So Christ left, if you just kind of, I'm not sure if you caught the beginning of it, but it was basically around that 4-minute mark. He was talking about 50 million plus Americans are going hungry. There was like a 4-hour food line in Ohio. I think my wife said there was like a 2-hour wait in Texas that was, or maybe it was longer than 2 hours, but it was like backed up all the way to the highway of people waiting for food. Like this one place was serving, like, I think they say they serve 10 million meals a month. It's just like, it's like real crazy. And earlier in this, a video, like I was also playing about how this friend of mine, she's got a channel called Hard News TV 5, and it's basically because she had her channel deleted about at least 5 times, so that's why she's on channel 5 right now. But she had a good video where she showed that there was like Dr. Fauci, I guess he was testing AIDS drugs on foster children who didn't have any advocates to protect their rights or look out after their interest. Those were kind of like some of the bigger points I've covered earlier in this video. And let's see here, what else? Oh, there was like an article that was written yesterday. I'll just go back over it real quick. Okay, here it is. But it's Pope blasts those who criticize COVID restrictions in the name of personal freedom. So where the Pope is basically the biggest things I took out of this. I read the whole article, but I'm not gonna do that a second time. But the biggest things about it was basically the Pope was mad at people protesting that people were mad at people protesting the COVID restrictions. He talked about how he had pneumonia and the seriousness and the serious illness I lived through taught me to depend on the goodness and wisdom of others, which I think is like kind of like a gesture to believe and trust the government and the health officials, like Tony Fauci or Anthony Fauci. That's what I kind of think he was actually alluding to. And then he talked about how he went on to praise the healthcare workers who are taking care of the sick during the pandemic. And he said that because they understand it's better to live a shorter life serving others than a longer one resisting that call. And I also think that's kind of a bit messed up too, because why are people protesting it? Because they want to live a better life, and instead of just being scared of a virus. So it's like, so aren't those people like resisting fear in order to live a better life that's probably better for their children instead of standing in a food line? I'm pretty sure people would have rather took that risk of working instead of standing in food lines. I'm not sure how safe those people feel. I mean, how comfy do these people feel standing in these food lines and not, having to depend on government to feed them, and other people to feed them? So I'm guessing that's probably not as scary as a virus. You just got to wonder about the people that keep pushing these lockdowns anyway. And then later on, he says some groups protested, refusing to keep their distance, marching against travel restrictions, as if measures that government must impose for the good of the people constitute some kind of political assault on autonomy or personal freedom. See, it's like, yeah, these people are trying to eat and live just a normal life, and you're really wrecking their lives. And but he's getting mad at them and acting like, oh, the government's doing some good. And then one of the other bigger takeaways, he says, among these unseen viruses are climate change, the referee crisis, hunger, and wars. So he's basically saying like these other things are kind of like viruses, and comparing that to COVID, and he had to throw in climate change into there. So it's kind of like my biggest points to share in that article. And yeah, I'll highlight that comment. They created the problem to start the solution. Yep. I missed you on the last live show I did like a week last Friday. I don't think you got to be on that one. Oh wow, you saw the volunteer that took the vaccine. Well, that'd be interesting. Well, there's been multiple ones though, so I'm not sure. Like, I didn't catch it, so this one might have slipped by me. I'm guessing there was like a one significant volunteer you must be referring to. If so, I mean, I wouldn't mind taking a look at that. Oh, I forgot. I gotta give you like a wrench so you can, if you want to ever post in this channel. Try to figure out how to navigate back to there real quick, because I gotta do it through YouTube in order to. There we go. So now if you got like something you need to post, like you see like a link to this kind of stuff, or you can post a link. I think I gave you a wrench. I think it's working. Hey, it got 2 people. This is exciting. The main reason why I'm excited, in case this is someone I don't know that just joined the chat, well, there might be more than 2. I keep forgetting that this thing doesn't really keep an accurate count when it's on like multiple platforms. Haha, it got rid of you. Just like that. But yeah, I'm always like curious about like, well, in case this person joins back. Okay, so you say and it ended up eating her own immune system attack. Or no, sorry, oh my gosh, my eyes are. And it ended up having her own immune system attacked. Her own immune system attacked her. So, all right, so she had an autoimmune response. It was eating her flesh from the inside. And all right. All right, well, that'd be awesome if you find it. I mean, I'll try to like put it like when the stream ends, I'll try to throw throw it into the channel. I might even add it to my website. I did put the video that I got kicked out for is on my website too. It's basically just playing a little 60 minutes clip. I'm not sure if you saw it yet. Because if you haven't, it's only about 2 minutes long, and basically talks about how they already are making the vaccine and they're storing, and the guy in 60 Minutes is like, hey, what if the vaccine's not approved? And he's like, oh, it's a risk that we'll have to take. Or it's like a risk that we need to take, something like that. But yeah, I guess if that vaccine wasn't approved, it's not their money. It comes back out of the taxpayer money. Another video I thought was really good this week, because I think people should see that one Prophesy Again TV video I was playing. But there's like another, and like I said, he's a Seventh-day Adventist, so I don't care for that little doctrine too much, even though I keep the Sabbath. I will bring up one point, because I do keep forgetting to bring this up. I always got this tab open up. I got so many tabs I forget about this point. But just thought it was interesting that, you got all these people that, like the Pope and everybody else, it's like they keep talking about global warming and let's lower carbon emissions, right? Now, I'm all about lowering carbon dioxide pollution. I'm all anti-pollution. I'm anti-GMOs, which I think is pollution. I'm anti these especially these genetically modified crops. I think, man, when a farmer's farm gets infected with them, instead of the other farmer who's trying to grow organic crops, having to pay a fine or something, or having to pay the other guy because you got his copyrighted GMOs all over your crops. The guy with the GMOs spreading it everywhere needs to be paying the fines for this stuff. They need to be fined heavy and hard, because you can't contain your genetic mess. Because it's pretty natural for organic crops to spread, their pollen, their DNA all over the place. It's not natural to have a genetically modified organism spreading their DNA everywhere. But anyway, carbon dioxide is a heavy, colorless, odorless gas, and it is the fourth most abundant constituent of dry air. By volume, it occupies only about 0.04% of dry air. So 0.04% of dry air. So you're trying to see. I wonder how many people that are the liberals I know that are talking about climate change and everything. I bet you if I said, so how much, so what should we lower the carbon down to? You think if we lower it down to 1%, do you think that would be pretty good? Would you be pretty happy with that? I almost guarantee that most of my liberal friends that are pushing this insane climate change would say, oh man, yeah, 1%, I'd settle for that. See, it's like really too bad that hardly any of them talk to me anymore. And part of it is because of things like this, because I'll bring out points like this. But if I told them, hey, that's only 0.04%, right? It's only 0.04. How much lower do you want it to be? 0.03? I mean, like, that to me seems relatively insignificant. So I wonder, what are the constituents of dry air? Just out of curiosity, like what's the air makeup? You know, I want to leave that article there because I still want to use that for reference. I'll just open up a new window. But if this gets boring for anyone, just yell at me. I can change subjects to whatever anyone wants to talk about or put up on the screen. But let's see. I'm just kind of curious what the constituents. So it should be constituents of dry air. Okay, so nitrogen makes up 78.08. Oxygen makes up almost 21%, 20.946. Argon makes up 0.934. So bring up this table. So they're freaking out about a 0.041%. I mean, methane, they cry about methane, man. Look at, because they cry about farms, like those animal farms, which I'm not a fan of because of the other pollution they do. It's not the climate change and global warming I'm afraid of. It's like all the other waste that goes on there and just the cruelty. That's a very insignificant number in my opinion. So, but just thought I'd share that little fact. Okay, so you say Facebook remove that. Well, hey, thanks for looking for that. I appreciate it because that would have been interesting. You know, some of these things I never know. Like, are people being like serious, or I still would like to know. Okay, so you say methane's a big part of environmental damage, but to me, when I'm looking at that whole thing, I mean, I thought it was until I saw this. I mean, down here, it's like 0.000187%. I mean, that just seems like barely anything. I think to me, it's all the like the animal waste products, the runoff, especially from like the pigs and everything. Like, because pigs carry a ton of viruses. People really shouldn't be eating pigs. But then it's like all that runoff from the blood when they slaughter them, and well, I guess that's a good point. I mean, well, they have linked that data. I just go by like how small those animals are, you know, and just like it just seems like, yeah, there seems to be a lot, but when you just take it into the scope of like, it's just like people, you'd be surprised that you can fit the whole world's population in Texas, and everyone could still have an acre of land. You can fit the entire world into the state of Texas, and it wouldn't really seem all that. Well, it probably would seem kind of bad traffic wise when you're driving a car around, but you still there. Everyone could still have an acre of land. So, and that's fitting like almost, what is it? Almost 8 billion people into like an area like that. And so I'm just thinking, you know, all these animals, I don't think it's too huge in comparison comparison when you just think about what little methane they emit out of them. So, I mean, to me, it seems like a believable number. Let's see if I can find like a reference. Oh, do they have anything that? Okay, here we go. So I'll click that. Two recently reliable sources cited here have total atmospheric compositions, including trace molecules that exceed 100%. They are Allen's Astrophysical Quantities and CRC Handbook of Chemistry and Physics, which cites Allen's astrophysical quantities. Both are used as references in this article. Both exceed 100% because their CO2 values were increased to 345 parts per millivolume. I can't remember what these measurements mean. Without changing their other constituents to compensate. So U.S. standard atmosphere and astrophysical qualities of, I mean, I guess like, it looks like it figures from like 2016 by those people. So I don't know. I mean, I have no idea how reliable they are, but I mean, it doesn't seem too inconceivable to me. But yeah, see, that's my biggest deal right there, is that pigs' flesh has a ton of toxins. Their body has a ton of toxins. So when they go and they slaughter these animals, their blood drains into rivers sometimes. And they say in university, we learn how to research. It's incredible how money can be conveniently biased. How money can conveniently bias data. Yeah. Yeah, it's like I'm kind of even shocked to the degree things have gotten. I don't know. Maybe I'm just more aware. Maybe they haven't gotten worse. I'm just more aware of how bad they actually are. And it seems like there is like a lot of money that goes into corrupting a lot of data. And it's like if people realize that, it's probably change their perspective on a lot of things. So let's see, what can I share now? I know there's like a few other. Okay, just out of curiosity, have you seen, like I'm starting to use brand new tube now, just because it's kind of easy for me to post things. Things don't seem to get banned. I seem to get like a lot of views pretty fast. Because I mean, I already got 103 views on brand new tube. I barely promote my channel. And I know on YouTube, if I post the same video, it takes me a while to get 103 views. I posted this one just like a couple of days ago. I already got 103 views. And it was almost pretty instant. But it's like a 60-minute. I think this is only like 2 minutes. It's like a 60-minute interview. Yeah, it's only like 2 minutes and 19 seconds long. But have you seen this video where these guys are talking about like already making the vaccine? Like they already got like millions of vials of it. Oh, it's brand new too. Here, I'll throw the link in the chat. I'll put the link for this particular video in there. But yeah, this is my channel basically that I'm posting to on brand new tube. Oh, hey, Truth Freeze. Hey, if anyone wants to come on the show, well, I was only supposed to do an hour and a half show. But if anyone wants to come on the show, you can come on it. So okay, now I know that this viewer counter is not working correctly because I got 2 people commenting, and here I'll post that in case anyone wants to. Let me throw that down in here. But I only I'll probably only do this for about maybe, I don't know, maybe just about a half hour longer, and then try to, I don't know, my kids I think might stay up until about 1 or 2 o'clock, so probably go and play with them a little bit. And I don't know, I might do another show later on tonight, so 1 or 2 o'clock, so probably go and play with them a little bit. I might do another show later on tonight, so. Oh gosh, you got to kill that audio though. I mean, not your audio though. You just killed your mic, but your computer.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right.
My goodness, I
Well,
didn't know.
hey, thanks for coming on. It's good to hear from you.
You found a way around this. Yay! I didn't know it was you. Or the YouTube band. There's always a way around these buggers. I'm telling you. Oh my goodness, so great to hear from you. Sorry doing this so late. You know, jumping in so late and finding this. I was ready to try to contact you because I figured, hey, if you got shut down, I'll do a host so you can do a show. Yeah, but
that'd be fun. Yeah. Yeah, I can't. You know what? I wanted to go on your show yesterday, but it's like, I think you ended it before I could make a call because I couldn't call while I was driving. But I wanted to jump on yesterday, but I have been catching it though.
I'm look, we're all discombobulated with all this stuff, time wise and everything. Everything's as if it wasn't hard enough to begin with. Add this, global pandemic. Did you ever see the World Health Organization, Tedros guy, the head of the World Health, saying that they're going to have a concert with Lady Gaga, and it's going to be for the global citizens of the world. It was really pushed on YouTube ads and stuff back in probably like June. I don't remember, but it's like global citizens of the world. Stay home. Oh, it was like stay home together. What's the motto? I'm sorry.
Earlier I read like an article. It's like the Pope's like going off on people about what was the title of it? It's like oh man, I can't find that article. I had it right up on my screen.
I know he's definitely Marxist, and he's pushing the not only the climate change but now the equity, equity for money. Like we got to, everybody has to have equal, just real straight up Marxist, like a one world economy. We need a one world economy so everything can be fair. He's really sorry.
Yeah, this article came out just like 2 hours ago, and well, maybe it might have been a little bit more than 2 hours. I think it was like probably about 6 hours ago. It says Pope blasts those who criticize COVID restrictions in the name of personal freedom. So he was basically like anyone that's like, hey, I want my freedom, and these restrictions are horrible. He was just going off on them. I kind of read that earlier. I'm not reading it again, but I just wanted to throw that headline at you.
He's of his father, the devil. It just makes sense. Yeah, push this fear and like, oh, everybody should be fine with this. For you need to care about one another. That's that. In the beginning, there was some funny songs making fun of the masks and that, and that's the first I really heard that term virtue signaling a lot, and I kind of get it now. Like I don't know, about 20% of the people I would say are into that. And what percent of the people do point their finger at you and like call on authorities or whatnot, and have you get to be a boss, like because they work in a store and you're not social distancing, or you didn't come in with a mask or whatever, and they know that they get the backing of authority? Like about what percent of the adult be of that ilk?
Well, okay. So what percent of people are like that? I mean, I would say, around here it seems low, or at least people are very like maybe they feel that. But I've only had that incident happen to me a couple of times. I mean, it's like I don't know, like, and the couple of times it happened, it was like a one lady behind like a counter of like Kroger's or something. She's like, "You need to put on a mask," and I was like, "HIPAA." And that's all I said. I just said HIPAA. I said HIPAA, ADA, and I said I'm not wearing one. Because I'm not going to be bothered by it. Because I mean, it's like these same people that want to criticize me about wearing a mask and stuff. Okay, you guys were sitting at home, safe, collecting $1,000 paycheck every week. Some of these people were, at least. A lot of them were. And it's like, I didn't have like no one gave me a choice. It's like, no, Chris, if you quit your job, you go hungry. If you're actually scared of the virus and you want to quit your job, too bad. I mean, what if this was a killer virus? Like these people really think? Their whole attitude, like, let's not look at it from our mindset. Let's look at it from their mindset. It's a deadly virus. You should be scared of it like it's the Black Plague. But we don't have a problem with forcing you to work. We don't have a problem telling you that you have no option to keep your job. We kind of like that we can just like twist your arm and make you work. You're an essential worker. I get to be safe, but you better put on a mask. You better do all this stuff. You better slave for me while I sit at home safe. That's kind of like my feeling with most of these people. It's like you never worried about giving me an option. I mean, heck, at least give me the $1,000 that you're getting. Like make it universal. Everyone gets $1,000 a week, or everyone gets $400 a week to stay at home. Everybody, whether you work or not, you get to get $400. But it's like I hate it that they never made that universal. So,
right. You're so spot on with that. And guess what? I hear my echo. That $2.2 trillion emergency stimulus money immediately became 6.2 trillion that we owe. Most of that money, everybody's thinking in the beginning, the young people, oh, I'll stay home. I get this magic money. Great, $1,200 here and there or whatever. And then the weekly amounts for the non-essential or whatever. It's a deck of cards that's going to fall in my area. The teachers, they don't want the kids coming back to school. They want, because they got great benefits. Like in my area specifically, they had a contract with cosmetic surgery was involved in it. Almost all of them took advantage of that and had cosmetic surgery being done. But they don't want to be around the kids. They're scared. They might get sick. They don't want to teach them, but they want the money. Not all of them, but it's just causing a really extra wicked sickness amongst society in general. This whole thing. But yeah, I try to put myself. I'm trying to think what they're thinking, because in my mind, most of them, all the Department of Health commissioners, all the governors, all of the county executives, they know this is a game and it's power control. They know it. But then there's the trickle down. A lot of them, I guess, are buying into the fear. I guess, because you know what? Then why, if not, wouldn't people have masked off by now? In my area, there is it's awesome, a growing group of people fed up, rallying They went yesterday on Thanksgiving in front of the county executive's house and posted the Constitution up on his wall, on his door. And the county commissioner, they both made like $100,000 extra overtime from this money. That's what I started to say. A lot of wealthy people got a lot of money from this stimulus magic money that really is debt on our shoulders. A lot of them. They got way more than 1,200 here and there and whatever.
Wow. Yeah, I was really surprised about how New York's been standing up to this. I heard a clip about where these police, or it was like a police, like a sheriff and a health department official came to like some business or something, and they drove them out. They told them to leave.
They said, leave now, or I forgot what they said. It's my area. This is what I'm saying is finally a group of people in our area, the different towns and such around Buffalo. They're fed up and they're organizing and they're uniting. And but guess what? Right after that clip went viral where they were actually they were using the guy's gym. He got shut down. He's a vet, served his country, and he's doing like gym and martial arts for people for health. Shut his gym down. And so then the small business owners in the area who are sick of this got together to meet at his gym, but privately, And so here comes 3 sheriff's department people and the Department of Health woman. And they said, you got a warrant, get out. Well, you don't have a mask. He said, don't worry about my health. Worry about yourself. Well, anyhow, after they left, they waited till they thought everybody left. The families that gathered there to meet, and they gave him a $15,000 fine. So now that's being fought. They're sneaky, and it's not about health at all. Not about health. So the same sort of groups of people went to the county executive's house and the Department of Health commissioner's house, protested, put up the Constitution, and then later that day, there was a rumor that Cuomo was coming to visit the county executive, Mark Poloncarz, and he'd go to his girlfriend's house, which I find really odd. Like Cuomo's paranoid now or something, and I don't know why he would meet him on a Thanksgiving from New York. I mean, all the way to Buffalo, the other side of the state. But except he heard that this confrontation was going on, and the news never covers anything. They had to. Once that video went viral, the news kind of has had to cover it. And now that they're, it's awesome in a way. That's what people need to do everywhere. It needs to be like an example. Business owners get together, restaurant, hair salons, whatever, get together and defy and fight this. With attorneys, politically, every which way, mass civil disobedience. How dare you? How dare you want your freedom? Oh, but yeah, it's to me, it's inspiring that this stuff is going on, and they're defying Antifa. They get wind. They got enough people in the group now that they find out if Antifa's going to try and come and do something, that they're there and they're ready to defend. So, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, like I said, I was just very shocked. This is all coming from New York, and
yeah, but don't forget we're the complete other side. It's still kind of too Democrat and liberal, but this is the whole the West, the exact West side, opposite of New York City. And actually, we have a David DiPietro representative from our area, and he proposed, got a bill going that we separate from New York City and become New Amsterdam. But the point is, we need to separate. Let New York City be their own, because they get everybody's taxes from all of New York State. And most people in New York is really other than a few spots like New York City, which is the biggest city in America, I guess, most populous, Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo, I mean, most of it's rural and down to earth people. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like New York's like its own, and New York City's like its own state in and of itself. So I don't know. It would probably be pretty nice for everyone to separate those two.
People say that's the whore of Babylon. Some of them. Some say no, it's Rome. Mostly Rome, right? Rome for sure, and the Pope.
Well, Rome runs New York, though.
Yeah. So actually, it's really like one of the harlot daughters.
Yeah, because I mean, like that's where a lot of the trouble started. I mean, I read all these like old history books, like when I read point out this book called Pope or President, written in like 1858. I mean, it talked about. I mean, where did the Bible first get taken out of public schools? Well, it was in New York. 39 schools in New York started in 1854, removing it. And who was behind it? The Catholic Church offered politicians money if they would remove the Bible from public schools. And I think that's when they first started to really take control of the Democrat Party. And they wound up doing the same thing in Pennsylvania and California. And pretty soon the whole entire country. But I mean, back in 1854, it was just New York, Pennsylvania, and California.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat what you just said?
Oh, this book. Well, yeah, this book, Pope or President, written in 1858, it points out how the Roman Catholic Church funded politicians who would remove the Bible from public schools and alter history books. And it cites that this began in New York, where they removed the Bible from 39 schools and altered history books. But then also around the same time, Pennsylvania and California were like the other states that did it.
Oh, wow. And so this was the Pope offering
the Catholic Church. It was done through the Catholic Church that offered politicians, and to me, when I look at it, the book doesn't say Democrat politician, but that when I look at other parts of the history, that's kind of what I come to the conclusion of, that it was because the Republican Party was really nothing around that time. I'm thinking they targeted the biggest party. And now you see today how, like, when we go through the course of history, like your first Catholic mayors and governors and senators, well, they're all Democrats. You know, like your first Catholic president, Kennedy, was a Democrat. So that's why I also think that it was the Democrat Party that the Catholic Church first infiltrated and started to do this scheme with, and then later on it became they started taking over the Republican Party as well.
That's amazing, because that's really big. I can't wait to tell my pastor about that. He's very much a history buff. He's a doctor. He was Catholic. He was an atheist, and now he's like just all consumed. He reads the Bible over and over again and studies it, and that is amazing. I do know that Carnegie family hosted for churches to go 501c3, bribing them with, if you do that, you'll get a free organ for your church. A lot of them did that. But the Bibles, the word, the written word, the non-KJV Bibles, many of them are so corrupt, and all of the newer ones, even the New King James Version, they twist and alter and omit and add. But wow, that's something, because the early, actually, our Congress, for those like everybody thinks, oh, separation church and state, can't talk about God in school, can't, got to leave that out. Congress set up funds and made Bibles for schools, in the beginning, once, school. And my friend says the only reason people were all right, the early people, pilgrims and such, to be willing to help pay and cover for public school, was so that their children could learn to read, so they could read their Bible. Otherwise, they wouldn't have trusted the government or government schools and went along with it at all. Wow. Yeah, politicians, most of them are nothing but Illuminati puppets. And those that oppose them get assassinated by someone. Don't know arrange that all. But yeah, it's, you know, it's the way of the world. Like with Solomon, I don't know if it's in Proverbs, but there's nothing new under the sun. Even this technology and stuff. I mean, back then there was, I don't know about the pyramids and all that, and if it was giants and whatnot, but, and, you know, I heard that, like, the Egyptians were given ways for, like, metallurgy and eye makeup and sorcery type stuff from demons. But, there's always been, like, technology of a sense going around. I'm sorry. Try to stay on track. My first question I have to ask you is that medicine you mentioned. That's interesting. America's.
Oh, ivermectin.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to say it. You said it. Listen.
Yeah, no, you could say it. Yeah, you know what? If my channel gets done, banned again, it's just gonna happen. It's like I gotta think of like a game plan because it's like people tell me they're not getting notifications and things like that, and I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do, but. Yeah. I gotta keep speaking the same way I'm speaking. I can't hold back, and I really think that part of this is a blessing because I think really I'm gonna try to figure out how to do all this without the internet. I mean, like seriously, like I'm about ready to go like real old school and just like I'm just gonna print my own newspaper from my house.
Yeah. No, you know what? You get a bullhorn. You got your voice.
Yeah, there you go, too. No, I'm like really thinking about I'll just take this out to the streets. I think I'll get a bigger audience anyway.
That's right. No, that's right. I'm going to try to find some of the best of the, it's all on Facebook too now. I never went on Facebook. It was only because YouTube started really scrubbing things. And, you can't you can put something up on YouTube. You can put a video up, but you can no longer share it. Remember, you used to be able to share somebody else's video or your own on YouTube itself or through Google. So that's done. Can't do that. So it's like there's really it's almost like there's Facebook, there's all these other places that are just a pain in the butt, and it's hard if online BitChute is worth subbing to because that's a place. That's a place where all the censored videos go. But aside from that, they're breaking up our communications abilities, their plan. But what's going on in my area here is awesome, where people are like just getting together in person and talking to one another and, protesting. It seems like protesting doesn't get you anywhere, but it definitely can. And but people are learning as they go and talking to one another and forming networking in the community. That's what it's going to come down to. Imagine the electric goes out. Who's going to matter most? Your immediate neighbors. Who did you get to know around you that have some skills, abilities, and or are aware? But yeah, you're right. Like some people do websites, but that's great. But then it's fine if you got enough people that would know to go to your website. So that's the problem with like a website. In general. Sorry.
Yeah, part of my problem is right now it's like I go look at my website, and it's like I just share it real quick. So
you got a website?
Issues I got with my website, but
how hard was it for you to set it up and do it?
Well, it's kind of an ugly website though right now. Like I don't have time to make it prettier. Like I could make all these like links better, and it's just like I'm just kind of throwing things up on here.
Look, you need a 16-year-old who's got some skills. Pay him a few bucks and have him spruce it up for you. Nice. Oh, wait Wait, I'm subbed to your. I've seen that. That's what I
Which
mean.
one? The Rise Up, or
I could have
which
sworn. What's
video did you say you saw? It's
no. What's the title of your website?
Fishing for Truth. I put
Yeah,
you up on there. Like I just put you right here. Like I mean, I would put like a picture of your channel or something, but I haven't got around to it. It's like I kind of forget, man. I'm trying to post other things and I forget this detail. And there's a lot of things I want to post and do, and it's just like
I like Holly.
I try to post my channel though. So if this channel gets banned, I always try to post like, here's my new YouTube channel. So I'll just keep posting my new YouTube channel right here, and just keep changing the link. So it'll look the exact same, but. And if you can't click anything, maybe, you keep trying to do it all week. Maybe I just don't have a channel anymore because YouTube's just figuring out how to keep me from creating a channel. But for right now, I'll just keep putting whatever YouTube channel I can stream to right there.
But they can't mess with your website, right? It's yours, kind of.
Well, not right now. I mean, me personally, I wonder if they do have like a plan eventually to shut down the websites.
Well, of course they do. But for right now,
yeah. But I mean, right now, I mean, at least I got everything on there, and it's like it gives me a place to tell people to go. So at least if I'm talking to someone out on the street, I can be, or like on the internet or something, I can be like, hey, look, I posted this right here. You can find it here. I know my site's a little ugly, but I do have this right here, and
I think it's nice. But yeah, I'm talking about the flashy stuff, right? Flashy, blah blah. Like some people are really good at, and it does make it nicer to watch a video that in the beginning. It's got the the
thumbnails.
Netanyahu. He's got like his the music and the little bit of blinking, but then everything he's to me it's like he could be definite like local news, quality.
Oh yeah. Oh no, he's very super high quality. He's like Alex Jones high quality, local news high quality. But I don't know if like he talked to you about anything, but man, like, oh gosh, I could not honestly, the way he starts his videos off talking about Trump and everything, and has like this like. I feel, me personally, I feel like he's feeding into the whole Donald Trump deception. And I mentioned it to him a couple of times. And once I heard it one more time, I was like, look, man, I know this is harsh, but like, I'm going to like cut it off, man. Like I'm cutting off our relationship. I'm unsubscribing to your channel. I don't want to have nothing to do with you. He offered me to have me on a show and talk about it, but I felt like I needed to do something like that to really shake him. Because I'm like, man, it's one thing if you voted for him and you vote for him because you're so scared. But it's another thing if you're acting like he's not part of this whole global worldwide shutdown.
There, you just said it right there. It's not that, no, a lot of people are in this camp where they know nobody's perfect and all that. See, like just in my mind, once I learned presidents are selected, I'm like, just out of protest, I'm not voting for any president anymore, ever again. Not only that, the red, the blue, the left, the white, the right door, the left door to the slaughterhouse. No. But yeah, our local sheriff may matter, and a local executive, and maybe the rest to a certain point. But no, there are people that are trapped in this, that this is almost like our only hope for America politically. And it would seem like it would be. But first off,
oh yeah, see, that's the whole thing I hate about it.
Right. I hear you. Because you know what? That's who should have drained the swamp. We, the people, should have drained the swamp. No one president, even if they are altruistic, good, and actually in power and not a puppet, they can't drain the swamp. It took us all along to drain the swamp. It starts at home. It really, like my pastor keeps saying, we got a sin problem, and it really starts with each One of us. And it really
yeah,
does.
oh yeah, I love that statement.
Yeah. So my daughter, she's so upset because she didn't know till the day like before to the last day to vote. She's like, I'm not sure. I think he's like really like tricking us and part of the problem. And then I'm thinking, no, he's really not. He's kind of dumb, or and she kept going back and forth. No, I'm sure, Mom. He's no good. He's a snake. And then she's like, I don't know. I'm laughing, but it really shouldn't be. It could be kind of serious, but I'm like, yeah, we're not putting our hope in a president. No, that's not what America is. It's not. And people forgot. See, this is why I know he's a snake, is because of all the people, Hillary Clinton all along, patriots, freedom fighters, truth seekers would be on guard. But because a guy comes in that everybody thinks, yeah, it's going to drain the swamp and all that, they sat back. I'm not saying people sat back totally, but the patriots have not been on guard. The good people of our nation are not on guard as they would be if Hillary was in, ready to put us in happy camps. Instead, it's Trump going to put us in the happy camps. So would you rather have Hillary put us in there or Trump? Like I say, it's a poop sandwich either way.
See, and I told someone the other day, I said, honestly, I'd rather have Biden in there. I said, and they go, are you nuts? And I go, well, I said, at least people would fight him. I said, I just think, I know Trump's going to go back in. I'd be absolutely floored if Trump didn't win this, or win this, I should say.
Right.
But, because he's the only one that can push this deception, that can keep this deception going. When I see people like Mark Matheny get caught up in it like that, I'm like, okay, I know this is a big deception right here. That gave me all the proof I needed to know that Trump's going to probably win this so-called rigged election. It's because I think it's like a scripted rigged election. And it's just a show, and it's like seeing those types of people's responses to all this. It's like
people like that. I'm shocked by it, but I'm like, I don't know. Other than I don't like, you can't just like, I don't know, say like, hey, no, you're like, I don't know. You can only say, no, I shouldn't say. I do need to try to talk to those people. I do actually. I try my best in a sense. Say, look, I would not be putting hope, trust in him at all, and not any one man, anyhow. And guess what? Pied Piper gets people off the cliff a lot easier than, like Hitler. So, it just, and then the other day it kind of spooked me. I was kind of looking, I forgot what I was looking into. I'm like, he actually fits. He's got the charisma. People love like when he does the dance and yeah. So it's scary, sad because you got the best. I'm shocked, like you say, like with him and some other people when they're going full-fledged hopes in Trump. It shocks me because I'm like, wait a minute. You know about history. You know about 9/11. You know about how history has gone and deceptions in this world. How do you not see it? I don't know. Frankly,
that's
I don't know.
When you mention 9/11, that's an awesome point because you see Giuliani standing right next to Trump, and that's what I told Mark. I said, "What? Do you not believe in 9/11 anymore?" It's like, dude, look who's standing next to him. It's just the buildup of his videos, man. There's when you listen to some of his videos, he kind of builds it up, man. It's like this mega struggle, and Donald Trump is at the front of this major struggle against the deep state, and it's like, no, man, it's like you gotta be real with people because there are some people, man, that are going to be caught so off guard and so not ready for what's coming.
Right, and aside from Trump, that's what I thought about. Just like some of my own children that wouldn't look as far deep Not that you got to look deep; it can be painful. But like the 9/11, and then Sandy Hook, and then Waco, Ruby Ridge, Oklahoma, all that. If you don't see that stuff in Prescott, Bush, trading with the enemies, and how America, I get so angry when it really, really starts, the light bulb starts to click on about our connection, our tie to this Nazi Holocaust of World War II that just revolves allegedly around, 6 million Jews getting killed. But the whole shebang of murder, war, mayhem, where our captains of industry in America benefited, IBM, ITT, Ford, all of it. It's like, wait a minute. And yet, what is everybody, 80 years old on down, the parrot, they just like, don't deny the Holocaust. Yeah, we can. We can deny everything. We've been told about it. How come it was just at the Nuremberg trials, the military Nazis? Why wasn't the scientists, paperclip, the ones that we brought here? And they're here now, affecting us now, like Fauci. It's like, we really are in a funny kind of world.
Oh yeah, I never even thought about that whole thing that you mentioned about we didn't bring the scientists to the Nuremberg trials. That's an awesome point.
And the Vatican, who in the Vatican got hung that helped with Hitler and the plans and the genocide. I mean, it's not like there was genocide. Those people were starved and killed. And most of them, and of the Jews, it was like Soros, the one Soros pointed out, the good faithful, and then Christians. But it's coming down to Christian genocide. My one friend, she keeps saying she came from Russia. All her family was killed. And she said it's white genocide. The reason they go after the white race the most, it's because they're more higher percent Christian. It's really about Christian it really is Christian persecution been going on. You wouldn't know it because it doesn't fully look like it. Like ISIS is going out to kill Syrians, But
that's a great point too. It's like I think that's more or less why they keep trying to build up like there's racial issues and make it seem like there's like there's this white supremacy, which it's like gosh, man, I think I might have came across maybe one or two in my entire life that I was like, okay, these people like really, really believe this. But I mean, and it's like people to confide in me, so it's not like people are like, well, they don't like outwardly, just say it. And I'm like, well, no, I talk to thousands and thousands of people, man, like personal, one-on-one, and get them to tell me things, man. And it's like. And I've only met like maybe two people that I thought were white supremacists my whole life, and it's like, but I think what it is it is one of those things where you said, like you brought it up, that a lot of white people are Christian, so maybe that's what you do. You create this like white supremacy issue that doesn't really exist. That way you can go and go after Christianity that way.
Exactly. And think about it. With the first big false flags in our nation, other than like Gulf of Tonkin and the Korean War, but the at Pearl Harbor, but the from Ruby Ridge to they I forgot what Randy Weaver. See, and I watched the story, watched documentaries, and but I didn't catch this one little key point until the other day. Randy Weaver, they wanted him to, quote unquote, infiltrate a white supremacist group. And because he didn't, they set him up with, you can cut off your shotgun barrel or rifle, whatever it was, this length. And they lied and made it a little shorter. And now we can go get him. He's got a sawed-off shotgun that's a little smaller than shorter than what's legal. Go get him and kill him. And send the whole force of the ATF, FBI, whatever it was, all that FBI and so yeah, they wanted him to infiltrate because you know what? Low level people in the FBI, I don't know about CIA, but you know, ATF and that, they're brainwashed into this is our enemy. This is our secret hidden enemy. These white supremacists that are going to rise up and cause chaos. And then it went from Randy Weaver to Waco, Texas. And I heard that Koresh, him and some of the people in his group found out about some of the gun running pre Eric Holder kind of stuff. Government, you know, guns and drugs have always been being sold underhanded by our government for money. Black operations for money to fund black operations. I'm not saying it right, but but then a guy right by my neighborhood, Tim McVeigh, he was set up to look like he's a white supremacist when he wasn't. He was like me or you, like seeing what the government is doing. And he was set up to go to Waco and witness it. So then they could send him to Oklahoma City, the Murrah building, the ATF Murrah building that held the Clinton papers, so that they could bomb it and then collect the papers and get it out of there and be the beginning of the Patriot Act against America, so they can defend us against these enemies. See, before ISIS and before Al Qaeda that are way overseas, right? They're way over there. Our enemy was your white supremacists, your men who, and really what it was, in their mind, our enemy is our veterans and our preppers and our people who know what's going on. That's the enemy of the government.
You know, think about this too. You know, it's like a lot of black people distrust the government for good reason, right? So if you go after people that, how best do you go after these people that might look at the government in the same distrustful way as the black people, who might be very unified in their views? Well, you label them a white supremacist, and that way the black people don't have that same emotional connection when you go after them.
Yep, spot on.
I think that's an angle of it too.
Wait, say it again.
I said, you know, like, okay, a guy like Randy Weaver, I like, you know, and other people, it's like when you're like, okay, we're suspicious of the government, and you got to think black people should be pretty suspicious of the government too, considering, you know, you had them like try to deny them voting rights even after slavery ended, did the Tuskegee experiment on them, you know, did all these things, right? So you got very good reasons to be suspicious, you know. But if you label like these other white people who are suspicious of the government and white people who believe in the Constitution and stuff like that, if you label them white supremacists, now the suspicious black people, you know, black people who are suspicious of the government will be less inclined to care about the government overreach that goes against the white people if you label them white supremacists. So I think that's like another angle to it.
Yes.
Because, you know, when I was reading about and Randy Weaver, I remember them saying, oh, he's a white supremacist. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know, I mean, I was kind of like a kid or a teenager when that happened. And I remember going, wait a minute. So he sawed off his shotgun and he shot his wife while she's holding the baby in her head. And you shot his 14-year-old son dead, and you shot their dog dead.
Yeah.
And hold on, so I don't think it's a bad thing just because his shotgun sawed off and he shot him. And then we're like, well, he's a white supremacist. And I'm like, well, what did he do, though? I mean, it's like one thing is to be like, I think whites are superior, or someone goes, I think blacks are superior. But, dude, if you're not hurting no one, who cares? You know, I got a friend that actually thinks black people are superior. You know, he's a black guy. He's like, oh, we're the most superior race. He does not bother me. Like, it doesn't bother me at all that he thinks that. I'm like, dude, it's fine. You know, we can debate about it and stuff like that. We're cordial, but I don't sit there fearing them. You know,
right. And amazingly, guess who got off? It was the sniper who shot Ricky Weaver and the bullet went past her and into Randy Weaver's friend, and they gave a high five to the sniper for getting a twofer. Although the friend
Oh
was,
my gosh, I didn't know about that part.
well, it was Lon Hirochi. He's a Japanese American. I am confused myself with saying that name. I believe he's an American. So he, prosecutor William Barr got him off scot-free, and Trump made him our attorney general. William Barr.
Oh yeah, that was one of my big things when Trump got ready to nominate him. And this is what got me kicked out of a bunch of Trump groups just for mentioning that and bringing that up. And I was like, look, man, this article, we got to stop Trump. Like, what? And I was like, okay, guys, look, like, just because I'm saying this is horrible, like, instead of looking at like I'm bashing Trump, what if Trump's playing 4D chess? Like, I was trying to play along with their little insanity. So I was like, well, what if Trump's playing 4D chess and he's nominating them? So people like me, I go tell you guys, and we all raise a big old ruckus, and this comes to people's conscious. And then Trump's like, oh, look what this guy was guilty. I mean, he exposes the deep state like that. He's like, well, I was getting pressured to nominate this guy, but look, man, I got all my followers freaking out. See, that's what I thought. Like, I was giving Trump a little bit of credit. I was like, okay, maybe, you know, people keep saying he's playing 4D chess. Well, this is how I would do it.
Chris, did you know keeping his enemies close to his elbows? You just trust the plan. Trust the plan.
Yeah.
I hear what
yeah.
I hear what you say. So, and then you tell me if people literally didn't hear or want to hear that, because it reflects bad on Trump, that means they're worshiping Trump. In my mind.
Well, I think most of these groups are controlled anyway. Like all the, like these were like 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 people groups, and here I am, you know, just saying this. And I mean, to be honest, really, you got a group with like 100,000 people in it, and you can manage my comment and see them. I'm posting that link, and you throw me out. Like that to me is kind of a bit suspicious right there. But then you're throwing me out because it is a truthful comment, and all I want to do is help Trump play 4D chess. Because let's say I would have thrown that out there, and we would have raised a ruckus, and that whole group of like, you know, this 30,000 group, this 50,000 group, you know, almost get like 500,000 people to raise a ruckus about this. Like,
yes.
And then, and what if Trump was really trying to be legit? And he's like, that's what I was hoping they would do. I was hoping someone would do that. And now I got this guy exposed, and I was getting pressure by the deep state, because people keep saying, well, Trump's getting some pressure by the deep state, so maybe that's why he's having to do some of this. Okay, but we could have bailed him out by complaining about it.
That's right.
And then he wouldn't be right. It's like, so I don't get. So I don't even get like what people were thinking, you know. So I'm like thinking they had to be like a lot of these groups have to be like controlled opposition.
Well, yeah, but it's not just that. Sadly, if that was, that'd be fine. Like they're just the enemy. That's, you know, expected, or they're bots or whatever. But a lot of it is like cult of personality and worship, and people are not conflagrating. What's the word? They're altering their. We put God first. You put God first if you're a Christian. And it's almost like they're substituting, you know, in the patriotism. I understand now in the last, like, I don't know, 10 years, why patriotism is not necessarily so good. It can be this, you know, pride. Okay, it's good to love the nation you're from and love the people within your nation that you're from and want to defend your nation. But to a certain point, okay? Not to the point where you sent your sons and daughters to go kill and be killed for a lie or for petrol. That's what gets me. This is, to me, one of the biggest things. I can't believe. Now that all of a sudden in the last 2 years, it seems like it's out of the bag that, oh, petrol is not so rare. It's we don't got to go, like if we subconsciously go to war, to get petrol because we need it to keep running things, but it's not such a rare thing. We're importing some of it from our own nation now, and that just gets shoved under the rug. Wait, we went to wars over, allegedly, in a lot of people's minds, over since I was a kid. It's they're fighting for oil. It's oil. It's all about oil. The petro blood dollar. And all of a sudden we find out, oh, that was a lie. Oil is not so rare. It's abundant in the earth.
Oh yeah. That's what I believe. Because if you're a Christian, you shouldn't buy into that whole lie about oil's rare. Because your thinking should be, wow, this Earth's only 6,000 years old. It's not millions of years old. This didn't come from dinosaurs, like they allege. So it's like I never understand why people like buy into that oil's rare.
Well, what I've heard people say, it's kind of brutal. Like, people willing to send in America their sons and daughters to war for their IRAs, their stability and their money. I mean, that seems kind of cruel to accuse people directly of that, but subconsciously or on a subconscious level, is that what's been going on? Why we're all right with going? Why do we go after 9/11? If it was 19 box cutters from Saudi Arabia, why do we go to Afghanistan? Oh, well, that's because that's where they're training. We're going to get them there before they come here. Okay, then why do we go into Iraq? It's like, it's this patriotism allows it. You know what I mean? It's that cult of patriotism.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing, man. I remember when 9/11 happened. That's like I think I had only been like a Christian for like a few months. Like I was born when I was a kid. I went to church and everything, and then I kind of went in a new age because of being taught things like evolution and stuff. And
well, you're really bright. Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, you're really a critical thinker, analytical. You could tell, and so yeah, I was going to ask you, like, when did you realize in that the Christianity, that Jesus and God in His Word was it? Like, when? Like, how did you know? When did you know?
I guess it was from all this like new age and stuff and all these other religions, because you hang around people and it's like, well, you can't tell me what truth is. Everyone's got their own opinion. But man, when you really live in a world like that and you take that to the absolute extreme, which is what you should logically do, you'll find out that it's like everything's empty, because it's like, well, what does anything mean? What are the rules? Well, is it bad, to do this one thing? Is it good to do it? It's like, well, who says? Who ultimately decides? You could actually be like, okay, I think it's really horrible that, two grown men adopted a child and raped it, or raised it to want to experience two men, right? Like, if you did that, that's pretty sick. But if there's no God, where do I even begin to tell someone that that's immoral? It could be evolution. Hey, I'm helping this kid evolve. You could rationalize it in a lot of ways. You could rationalize having sex with like an 8-year-old girl, like, well, if I keep doing it, eventually she's going to evolve and mature, like over time, like, because isn't that like, don't they believe like those snakes that fell out of trees, that's how they became birds? They would fall out and eventually grow wings and stuff. Like, so how, like, that's why I was like thinking, like, how do you, like, some of these like more, some of these more complex moral issues that seem to bother me, like how would I go about even it's like, if I can't figure out who God is exactly, and if I can't name him, how can I even begin to build a foundation for right and wrong and rules and order?
Yes.
And so it kind of gave me a breakdown after a while. And then I was like, well, and I had one day had like this experience where, I was like thinking, man, maybe we're all God and stuff. And I go into this chat room and it's really weird, man. Because like the way this program's set up, you cannot, like, there's like no way, because it was set up very simply at this time. And there was like no way like someone could just easily hack into it and make the screen do something way different because it was a chat room. It's kind of like if we were having a discussion and suddenly like I took and switched everything around in this, because you're like thinking, well, this is a program. How did you hack into this deep part of the program and stuff?
Right.
And someone and I said, and when I was in this chat room, I made this message about how I'm the big one and I'm the little one, and I was like, having like this whole thing like, oh, we're all God and stuff, and thinking that, and all of a sudden like my screen went black, and I saw the words, hello, little one, and I was like, whoa, I was like, is this God? And then it's like, I never knew you was like the other thing they said. And it instantly made me think of that Bible verse where it's like you meet God and he goes, depart from me, you wicked evil ones. I never knew you. And I was like, oh my God, I was thinking I was God. I was thinking we're all God. God got offended. God's mad at me. I'm going to go to hell. And I went into a severe panic attack at that point, all the way so to where I knocked on this friend's porch who I knew had a preacher for a dad. And I knocked on her door and woke her dad up out of bed at like 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, dude, I gotta talk. I'm like freaking out. Like, am I going to hell right now? And like, I just went through like this extreme like stress for about a year, man, where it's like, I was like so scared to sin. I was so scared to do anything, kept reading the Bible. And I was like, man, and I was constantly like, dude, I know this is like my last hope, because I was like, okay, that Jesus did say, I am the way, the truth, and the light, and the life, and no one can come to the Father except through me. And I was like, okay, if you're saying you're the truth, that means that's where reality begins and ends. That means you are the author of truth. That means whatever you perceive is true. Because I also remember this one book, this girl shared with me this one time. It's called The Man Who Thought His Wife Was a Hat. And the point of that book was, is the man crazy or is the world crazy? And how do you figure it out? And I was like thinking, well, you would have to have some point of reference that gave ultimate authority to what truth is, that went outside of us in the world, that could establish that authority. And I mean, that's kind of what I was looking for in that whole little new age time of my life. And I guess it's like when I heard Jesus say, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father. I was like, okay, well, once you have truth, you have reality, because if you're living a lie, you're lying about living, and therefore you're dead. But if you can't establish what truth is, or it's like, if I have my own reality and you have your own reality, well, if our realities, like, let's say we're all God, and I go, I believe this is true, and you say, I believe this is true, but if we're both God and we were truth, then suddenly we're both a liar, because if we got equal authority, and you say something's truth and I say something's truth, it becomes a lie, because you can't have truth, can't be contradicted, can't exist in well, truth, you cannot have two truths that contradict each other, because at that point they both got to be a lie.
Yes.
So I mean, so that's kind of what like spurred me. So when I saw Jesus say, I am the way, the truth, and the life, I was like, okay, basically you must be saying you're God. And that's the first time I ever knew that Jesus was actually almost putting himself on the level of God. Because when I grew up, I just thought, oh, it's his son. And I know, like, to an extent, that's how it is. But at the same time, I never knew that he had authority as God. And he is God. And, it says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And if Jesus is the Word made flesh, then he is God too, from what I understand. So I was like, okay, so I that's what kind of like spurred me to dig deeper. And so I was like, okay, this dude's kind of putting himself on an island. I guess it's like, if everything he says winds up being true, but I'll just let him speak, and then I'm gonna see if it can be verified. And it's like over time, it's like I found out it was verified. And then I had one friend that challenged me. He said, like, well, Chris, you know, the earth ain't 6,000 years old, and that's what the Bible says. I mean, I hate to tell you that, but it's like I know you want to like believe in truth, and I'm like, man. And then this one guy's like, well, Chris, I can help you with that. I was like, really? It's like, oh yeah. There's a lot of science that contradicts that evolution. I'm like, oh, okay. So I start looking into that. So
You're not a
so that's
flat
like what really
earther.
cemented my faith.
You're not a truther, are you? As somebody said. You know what's amazing? What you're saying is, like God put you on earth, and your intellect sort of took over, but He got your heart, right? Because but you're from a pure point, seeking the truth. And that's where I have a lot of hope. And even people are atheists, proclaimed atheists and all that. If people are truly seeking, they will come to Jesus, because Jesus is the truth. And it always like bothered me when I was younger. Like, what do you mean Jesus is the truth? Like, it doesn't really make sense. And now it does to me. But
Oh yeah, I didn't quite understand what people meant at that time until I went through all that headspace.
it's, you know what? My aunt says, like, it's a curse, sort of, to be high intellect in this world, in low coping skills. It could be rough. And see, God is so good. He gets everybody who's seeking for Him. Now, if it can be rougher if you're sort of like high intellect. Let's say, and see, that's why, like the Pope for president, 1858, you talked about. That is why they push evolution, dinosaur lies. Dinosaurs are real, but the lies about how old they are and all that. Because if they could just take, or we went to the moon, you just take one thing and call God a liar, then indirectly children will know. In my Catholic grammar school, my children were taught that Adam and Eve wasn't real. The Red Sea was a natural phenomena. What are you telling them then? What ultimate? So then, if you can corrupt God's word and put one little doubt, like you said, if you're really seeking the truth, well, if everything God says is true except a few things, then you question that, and that's what the wicked know. So just put some little doubt. If you can't do it this way, evolution, the stories, Noah and the ark, and or going to the moon, whatever. Put that doubt, put that seed of doubt in God's word, in God's truth. Because God, and like you say, like it's you're all true or not. You can't like have truth. You can't have two opposing truths and then they're both lies.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. See, like my son, he had like I raised my children Catholic in the system. I call it the system. I didn't. You know what's so funny? And I know you want to play with your kids. It's kind of
I'll end this in 10 minutes. I'll do it for 10 more minutes, like 125.
All right. And so like for me, I was all my life like there's got to be only one right religion. Religion was my word in my head, because God wouldn't have wanted, like, God wouldn't have made different ones, and I got to find the right one. I never knew, like, and I was always like seeking, like, what's the one right religion? And I get married. My husband's Catholic. He's like, well, I'll tell you one thing. Cracks me up to this day. He said that is the safest, probably safest. He's thinking of Hare Krishna and some of these cults. Like, look, you can get caught up in one of those things. The Catholic Church is the safest. And so I over time, that alone didn't convince me, but I'm like, at some point, I'm like, Yes, that's it. The Catholic Church is the one, because they proclaim this, the one true, only true church, right? Yes, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. Oh, thank you, God, for showing me this. And I go full-fledged into it. Raise my children Catholic. We're not just like Catholic in name, but we're gonna gung ho. We're really Catholic. And a good friend, she started trying to tell me the history. What opened my eyes was learning the history of the Catholic system and the murders, the genocide, the Inquisitions, the Dark Ages, the popes that burned people at the stake for having even a verse of Bible, the Jesuits, all of that. That's what opened my eyes. But I forgot my main point. But you know what? It's for people seeking the truth, there's no compromise. It's like it's all or nothing. And so you seek that. But my son, he went from being raised semi-Catholic to then he watched somebody who was crying that said he went to hell and came back. And once you're saved, if you ever sin, don't do it. You're going to go in the fires of hell. And, it's awful. And he crying and crying. My son went into a panic for 2 weeks. Mom, we gotta never sin. And I'm like, no, we're human. We're flesh still. Like we're always going to be, to some degree, we can be saved. But yet, yes, we're still gonna sin every day. We do. And but he got panicky, and then he started listening to Joe Rogan, I call him Sam Hill, I think, and another guy, and since then he's like hard to break through. The other guy, I can't remember the other guy. Philosophical speakers. I'm like, oi. But so what you're saying, if he heard you, I think that might break through. I'm gonna try to make him listen to what you said tonight.
This broadcast led to something good.
Yeah, it's okay. Even like my little name I picked, I meant to do like the truth frees us, not truth frees. No, like almost nobody gets that. But everybody seeking the truth, they will find Jesus. They will find the truth if they're seeking it. And so I heard not long ago, I watched a video where like people were interviewed in Israel. What do you think of Jesus? A lot of the people in Jerusalem, they think that Jesus stole when he went into the temple and he tipped over the tables. He stole the name of God, and that's how he got some power to do the things he did. Or when he walked on the water, he was stepping on some stones from one of the prophets. And it's like, wow. When I was Catholic, I was like, how can the Jews, when I read Psalm 22, right before the Lord is my shepherd, Psalm 23, explaining everything Jesus saying, I'm not a man, I'm a worm. David writing about Jesus being crucified to a T historically. Like they ripped my garment, my vestment, they gambled for all this stuff. You can't, it's impossible for that prophecy to come to the details it does in Psalm 22. And I'm like, those poor Jews, they can't see. But I was in the Catholic system at the time. So God taught me God's got a sense of humor. It's like, okay. Like now I think back on it, I'm like, how could they be so blind? It's in their scripture, the Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament. Everything fits to the T. Written by David about Jesus, thousands of years later. Like, can't you see that? And here I was in the Catholic system, believing in religion. If I would have asked God all along, show me not the right religion, but that it's by faith. But because in my mind was that word religion. What's the right religion, God? Show me it. There is no religion. All religions fall short. All of them.
See, I know,
So,
I know when I was, when I was like growing up, people give me the sense of like, because I'm like, well, why? I mean, will this one person go to hell? If they believe this other religion, and go, well, no, as long as they're faithful to their religion, it's like people kind of give me like the sense that there was like it was all about faith, and it wasn't really about truth. And it's actually like, I mean, both are extremely important. So I think that's like part of the problem too. It's like, well, if they grew up in here, they're supposed to be loyal to that because that's what you've been taught. And I don't know. I think that's kind of some of the issue too.
yeah, even just our understanding of these words in our minds. So if you're faithful, well, no, if you're believing in your religion, it's no different than patriotism or Trump or Republican, Democrat. You're in a system. A system. Faith is beyond the boundaries of faith. Go beyond any enclosed system, group, cult, in whatever religion, whatever you want to call it. And instinctively, we got to know that. When you look around, there's somewhere in one of the Psalms about like there's no excuse for those who deny God, because the evidence of the invisible is known by what is visible. Something like that. You look at the trees, you look at nature, you look at the design. You know, on a level you can't deny there is a creator, and no science can explain it. So, and thank God God's the judge, not any of us. He judges our hearts. But it's not that it's bad to be on a team and root for your team. But when it comes down to it, like if your own mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter did something bad, would you because you love them, say what you did wasn't bad? See that where do we divide ourselves?
Right. See, and I kind of think if you really love someone, you got to be honest with them. Like I got like one friend that I know he like really appreciates it goes on, but I mean it's like I'll be brutal with him. Like, well, that's my brutal, honest opinion, and I feel like the things I tell him is like it's every bit as like what I was brutal to Mark Matheny. But I mean, man, like he like, well, dude, I thank you. But yeah, but I mean, it's like, but he understands, like, I'm saying it because it's like it might be kind of harsh sounding, but I mean, at the same time, it's like if I didn't like tell you exactly what I thought and just like, I feel like I don't love you,
Right.
Now, what
right.
I might say might be wrong. Like, that's not to say that I'm wrong, but I mean, like, I'm gonna be like, well, this is how I see it. It's gonna be kind of brutal and hard to hear, but and every time, and maybe there are sometimes I'm wrong, but I mean, I'm at least gonna, pose it because I feel like if I don't love him. Since God is love, God is truth, and God is life. Well, I feel like if I leave one of those three things out when I talk to people, then I don't love them.
Yes. Oh, you're like awesome. It's hard to put things into words, but you do a really good job explaining things. It is. It is hard to put. It really is. And then a lot of people were they're out of fear or, well, I'm not going to say it right, and they don't say anything. That's not me. I'm like, I might say this wrong. I'm going to say it anyhow. But yeah, if you really care about people, you're not going to, like, I don't know, like, I always resented the superficial chat and stuff like that. I'm like, no, like, I'm not gonna talk about the weather. Your shirt looks nice, blah blah. No, I mean, yeah, I might, but no, come on, let's talk about what's real and what matters. And microanatomy. Oh, that just flashed for a second. That's why I went back.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna leave it up there so you can read. I realized that. Oh, I took it down quick. Yeah. I like to try to post people's comments so everyone can kind of get a sense of what's going on. And
But see, a lot of things come down to like prove it. Like we got like Timothy was warned by Paul. Beware of science so called. Science so called. We got so much of that in this world today. Science so called and the experts. And look, they made a global pandemic on the world. These science so called scientists. But some people don't need to prove it. Prove it. Prove we're like created by one God. And what you were explaining before was like the relativism. My truth is my truth and your truth is your truth, and let's just be all right together. Well, guess what? We only live about 80 years. If there's eternity, we might want to get this right. This my truth is mine and yours is yours, and relativism in general. It's who could say it's okay to take a baby's life? Well, it's like women's rights. Who said it's women's rights? That's your science so called. It's nuts. It's crazy. Well, thank God we're blessed when it's a fearful thing to seek the truth and to know that we got to buck the world. Because the world, and Jesus said, the world hated me before you. You cannot be, enmity, being friends with the world, and that's not the right word, is enmity with God. If you are a friend of the world, you're an enemy of God. That's why I love God's word. It's truth. You cannot be a friend in this world, a friend of the world, and be loved by the world, and be all right with the Lord. No. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Some people get more, I feel some of us just are born with the gumption to go, hey, we're going for what's the truth, and we don't care if people make fun of us. It's not going to beat us down. And for other people, it's hard. It's or it's scary,
Well, I need to go.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Yeah, I will say that one verse you quoted, that was an awesome verse. You brought up the 1 Timothy 6:20. I wanted to go look that up, where it says, "O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called." So just kind of want to throw that out there to anyone listening if they want to know what verse that was.
Timothy what? Timothy what?
1 Timothy 6:20.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, vain babblings. Yeah. For another day, you got to go. You got chitlers. I call my children chitlers. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, I wish you would have came on earlier, man. You
know.
You always make the broadcast good. It's like I don't like you get my mind, all my wheels like turning real in a good way to where I can easily like speak things and stuff and talk, and I'm like it's real nice. Like you always kind of like you always kind of throw something out there that I can real easily go back and forth with you on. So I really appreciate that.
You're like, oh, we got to be related. Probably not. But wait, where are you from? You're in a different. You're like a different time zone. So I'm New York. I'm Eastern
Yeah,
Standard.
we're actually in the same time zone. We're on New York time.
Oh, Oh, all right.
Yeah, it's 1:30 where you live, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Oh, so awesome to hear from you. This is awesome.
Oh yeah,
So,
it's really good to hear from you. I'm glad you came on.
well, when you going to do a chat again? Do you know?
I know I'll definitely, like, Friday's the only definite time I have, like, where I'm like, I told my wife, like, every Friday for about 2 hours I want to do a chat, but it could be anywhere between 7 p.m. to 10 o'clock. I do it, maybe 11 o'clock. I don't know. Like, it's like I kind of wish I would have started this one. Now that you came on, I wish I would have started at 11, because if I would have started at 11, I would have played with my kids a little bit more, and then had, like, I would have been free to, like, keep this thing going. So
No, you got to sleep too.
well, I also got to stay on schedule, and sadly it's like I got a job where it's like I don't even get off until 5 o'clock in the morning, so that's kind of like, it throws me off. But what I'd like to do is try to get to bed like a little, or like play with the kids a little bit, have us all go to sleep, wake up early, play, and go to work tomorrow.
Well, 5 a.m. is pretty darn early. Yeah. So, all right. I will keep that in mind. Around 7 is good for you on most days. But if something happens with this, definitely I'm open to, like, host you to just open it so you could do a chat. And especially since these buggers are trying to do this stuff to us. So that's what I used to wonder before. Somebody like, my channel was taken down. Like, why didn't you just hop on somebody else's, you know? Like, but I guess it's not so easy, or it demoralizes people. People get demoralized by this stuff. And
I was like, well, why didn't you fight it?
Right,
and now I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. They don't even give me the option to fight it anymore. Used to, you could fight it.
Well, you cannot talk about certain substitute.
Oh yeah, ivermectin, COVID, incompetence of the health departments. Yeah, I'm so livid. After reading that medical study, I am just so livid, and hearing Dr. Mobeen and this other Dr. Merrick talk about, because these are guys that are pro-mask, pro-social distancing, pro-canceling Thanksgiving, and even they were like, that Dr. Merrick, he was like, the amount of incompetence in this world is just like, I mean, basically he made it sound like it was criminal. And I was like, okay, when these guys are breaking down and saying that, you know, something's up, you know?
And
it's like, I'm starting to hear more.
It's
criminal. You're starting to hear more doctors that were for the lockdown start to be like, wow, you know, this is like crazy. We don't really need to have a second lockdown, and we can manage this and treat it. But
listen, I so look for, I'm going to send you a few. Did you wait? Where would I? Okay, I want to send you a few Facebook. See, like, that's the thing. I don't think you can, like, copy paste.
Are you on Facebook? Because I'm on Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. What is it?
Let me give you my Facebook link, and then you can. I'll put that in the chat.
Okay. Plus, I want to send you with America's Frontline Doctors, specifically Dr. Peter McCullough. He gives the breakdown to doctors treating serious cases with real specific details, Ivor being one of them. And I'm like, wow, I want to send this to my news. You stop giving us your government doctors talking and listen to Peter McCullough. But if you go to americasdoctors.com, like I just did, because I was going to try and share, there's like 2 different ones. One gives each doctor and what he's got to say. Like, there's 2 different maybe websites, is all I'm saying. But let's see. Right, I don't see your Facebook.
You don't. Well, I put the link in the chat, or you don't see it in the chat.
I'll go to it. Wait a second, because you know what happens now? I'm going to it right now. YouTube now, as soon as a chat closes, immediately they close the chat. Like it used to be open for a few minutes, and now it's like. So wait a minute. Let me find. Oh, but yeah, but just remember that name, Dr. Peter McCullough. I will email you or message you, probably on the Facebook, and tell your children. It's late to go to bed. No. How old are your children?
You want to say how old you are?
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
4 years old.
Four.
He's having trouble talking.
Beautiful. Yep.
But, yeah, I
Aw.
just banged on the door for a while. I'm like, oh my gosh, I see I've been down here for 3 hours. And
4. That's right, 4. You guys got a dog? You guys got a dog?
I'm almost done, okay? I'm just doing a show. I'm almost done. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Aw, beautiful. Beautiful. All right. I still don't see. Wait, can you just tell me your Facebook or no? Like,
Okay, it's Christopher John Lucas, and it's all the classical spellings. It's nothing
Okay.
like with a K or anything.
Christopher
John Lucas.
Beautiful. And I'll
Yes.
find you on there. And beautiful. Listen.
Yeah, I tried
we
to
got
look for you, and I can't type Truth Freeze and find you. So
No. On Facebook, it's Polly Ann, ANN.
okay, Pollyanna. Okay.
Yeah, because I got to show you some of the stuff that these people around here are doing. It's very inspiring. Give you some ideas. And that Peter McCullough with the Ivor thing. That's amazing. That tells me something there. They shut you down for that. So listen, God bless.
I think the ivermectin thing. I think they are just insane about that.
Well, yeah, it's because we can't let people help themselves. The NIH, really quick, they get put out a memo to the doctors. Don't treat anybody with moderate symptoms unless they need oxygen. That's a death sentence. That's what they're all about. So, yeah, that's why
oh, go ahead.
No, that's why anything cheap, easy for people to get, the cures, yeah. Can't have that. Can't have people like Chris talking about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't want anything that's like simple and cheap, that can actually end the pandemic, like and make things go back to normal. That's not the goal.
That's right.
And like when I was watching this one medical video earlier, they, when they were showing like the body types that normally get real bad and severe COVID, they're showing like an overweight person and then like this like more leaner person. But the thing about the overweight person, it's not so much just the overweightness. They were talking about how like they got like these diet issues that they think are underlining that's causing inflammation in their bodies and stuff. And they say they think the COVID-19 tips it over. So it's like, well, if it's dietary issues, and your COVID's just tipping it over, then I mean, maybe COVID's not like this real bad, deadly virus. Maybe it's something that's that exists in the environment to help your body clean itself out. And if your body didn't have all these like toxins in it, maybe you wouldn't be dying from it. So I mean, and so I guess that's a part of where those people get that whole exosome theory or exosome theory from.
Yep.
But I mean, I kind of wondered that, like when I saw that, like I didn't even I never thought about that exosome theory until I saw that on the screen. I'm like, wait a minute, man, that looks like if you're tipping all your other issues over, past the tipping point, maybe this isn't such a horrible thing, But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up.
All right,
I just want to
God
share.
bless you. And Chris Lift, and me and you, and anybody who hears this, good stuff.
Oh yeah,
You're
yeah,
awesome.
I really appreciate it, man. It was like good for my soul, especially the last part of it when he came on. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and close this out. I'm not gonna say anything more. I just want to say, that I got that one ivermectin study right there on my webpage, right towards the top where it says home FLCCC frontline COVID-19 critical care. People will click on that link. They'll go to that ivermectin study, and it's a real all natural study. It's like there's nothing.
Nice.
Nothing.
Farm
Nothing real
supplies.
crazy. Well, especially when you go to this eye mask PDF. Yeah, I'm just gonna. I'll throw that up on the screen real quick just so people can see that it's a real natural, all natural.
How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, look at this. It's like ivermectin, 0.2 milligrams, one dose on day 1 and one dose on day 4, and then take one dose every 4 weeks. So you only have to take, according to them, 0.2 milligrams. Right.
Amazing. And just so you know, it's at every farm supply store. Yep.
Yeah. And then look at these other things they say: vitamin D3, vitamin D, quercetin, zinc, melatonin, aspirin. Early out, and this is the prophylaxis protocol. So that's before you get it, and then it's like after you get it. There you got your treatment after you get COVID. And I mean, so you don't have to be dying from this. This should lower anyone's death.
You don't got to be scared.
Yeah, I mean,
get it. There's also treatment, like America's Frontline Doctors, and you find a real doctor. There is treatment with basic stuff. It's amazing. It seems complicated, but it's not. Aside for the prophylactic, it's your basic asthma medicines, steroid, antibiotic, aspirin, and there you go. But beautiful.
All right, well,
how dare you?
Yeah, I know. I mean, can you believe that? You know what? I did get kind of angry in the appeal I wrote to him. I said, "Well, what if Liam, sit down. You don't have clothes on." Yeah. It's like, well, we're banning you for wearing pants.
No.
But
keep that little boy gone. You better shut it down.
But I told him, okay, what if someone was drowning and I went to go grab a rope that was normally sitting around the lake, and when I went to go grab it, I discovered you hit it. I said, shouldn't you be guilty of the murder?
Yes.
And I said, and I said, that's all I feel like I did.
That's a great yes, that's exactly it. Perfect. Wow.
Right.
That is perfect. Remind me of that. Some artists out there, they got to do a cartoon of that. That is a perfect way to describe what's going on. The reality.
Oh, that would be awesome if someone did.
God bless you.
God bless you too. God bless you, Christ Lift. Happy Sabbath to both of you, and anyone else watching the show. Happy Sabbath to you, and I'm ending it. Okay.
All righty. Nighty.
All right.
God bless.
All right. Bye.